How about we use the appearance of wild beasts? Wolf, lion, black bear, etc. Lioli glanced at Suyu and said softly. Kokoro held her chin up, thinking for a long time, then suddenly clapped her hands in front of her chest and said, I want to use brother Suyu's appearance as the clan crest. I think it's good. Aksu directly chose to give up her brain, her eyes shining. What a great egg. You're holding a banner with my portrait. Are you planning to go out to fight or to attend my funeral? I don't care about my face. But this was what Kokoro said, and Suyu couldn't say it out loud, so she could only cast an expectant look to her left. Yaxiang thought about it, and suddenly took out a dark frying pan from her waist. She took it with her when she went hunting that morning. It had to be said that it was quite effective in hitting the beasts' heads. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to catch any alive today. The frying pan was placed on the table with a clanging sound. Why don't we use this as our clan emblem? Frying pan, honey, are you serious? Tell me the truth. Was your last name Hong in your previous life? They're all more unreliable than the other. What's even more unbelievable is that this thing was passed unanimously. Can't you expand your thinking a little bit and think in a more far-reaching and faith-filled direction? You have long hair, and your horizons should be broader. Haha, it's indeed a woman. Suyu snorted coldly and looked at the solemn Yaxiang, her voice resounding. I agree to. I don't really care whether the idea is ambitious or not. I just simply like this proposal, really. Vinny will pass on the matter of the clan crest tomorrow. Also, we'll have roundtable meetings every 7 days. I'll send someone to notify everyone then. This concludes today's meeting. Afterwards, Suyu picked up the bone knife in front of him and stood up. The 7 women stood up in confusion and immediately followed the team. The bone knives touched in the center of the table. Suyu said, I love my family. Everyone, I love my family. The voice was emotionless. Dismiss. The battle is about to begin. Thank you all for your generous gifts. I took time out of my busy schedule to ride a wheelchair to come and entertain you, and you just moved your left and right hands in slow motion. My face is already swollen. Chapter 74, The Strange Apple Tree, 1. After inspecting each of Si Jiao and his team's finished bathtubs, Suyu expressed her satisfaction. With Winnie, a top-notch carpenter, at her side, the cut wood and the placement of the joints were perfectly executed. Si Jiao and his team had assembled them with ease, and the glue had been applied evenly. As soon as the sun rose tomorrow, these bathtubs would be ready for use. Good days are coming. Suyu praised Si Jiao and others, and only went back happily after they left. In the main house, Yaxiang and Kokoro sat by the campfire grilling. Nearby were a few clay pots they'd gotten from Li. These were trial items, and Yaxiang found them quite useful. The pots contained some water and the chili peppers they'd just received today. Once the peppers were ripe in the plantation, Lioli, following Suyu's instructions, distributed a portion to everyone in the tribe, just as she had with the potatoes. The cabbages were just beginning to emerge, so it would likely take some time for them to mature. The only good thing about the seeds produced by the system is that they are not affected by climate temperature differences. As long as there is soil and a little nutrition, they can grow anywhere, and the taste is very authentic. In fact, in the afternoon, Suyu had already received feedback from the tribesmen about chili pepper, and her favorability points increased rapidly, with a surplus of more than 2,000. Otherwise, she would not be willing to spend 2,000 favorability points to exchange for soap. Brother Suyu, come here quickly. Suyu entered the house, lowered the animal skin curtain, and saw Kokoro waving at her. He chuckled and walked over quietly, and Kokoro immediately made way for him. As soon as Suyu sat down on the hay, Kokoro came over with a giggle, tilting her little face up and laughing. Did you practice your magic power well today? Yes, I can now heal the wounds of injured rabbits, Kokoro said proudly. Oh, Suyu nodded. I saw it. The wound has recovered very well, and the rabbit seems to have been taken back by Si Jiao. Poor rabbit, it couldn't escape the fate of becoming dried meat. Who made you a public servant? Suyu suddenly took out the soap she had exchanged. The scent of jasmine instantly spread around the 3 people in the small space. Kokoro's eyes widened and her nose twitched. It smells so good, Brother Suyu, what is this? Yaxiang couldn't resist the tempting fragrance and turned sideways. This is called soap. It's from our hometown and is used for bathing. Suyu explained. For bathing? Yaxiang tilted her head in confusion. Yes, when you take a shower, use it to wipe your body. It will make you clean and smell good too. But we have to wait 5 days before taking a bath. Kokoro was deflated when she heard that. Her eyes sparkled as she stared at the fragrant little thing without blinking. Who said that? What do you think I did today? I've already dug a well and made a large wooden tub for bathing. The water and bathing utensils will be available tomorrow. Suyu said, you can take a bath tomorrow night. Wow, is that true? Brother Suyu, you are so awesome. Kokoro was so happy that she almost jumped up. Did you call Winnie out to help? Yashang suddenly asked as if she understood something. Yeah, how did you know? Winnie gritted her teeth and told me today that she couldn't sleep at night and wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with my sister. Forehead. This is a trick to grab bamboo shoots. You have it, Winnie. Don't listen to her. She's just envious. Suyu said seriously. You'll be alone tonight. Yashang snorted softly, and Suyu felt unwell. After finishing dinner and cleaning up everything, Suyu lay on the bed with her eyes wide open. Master, I understand. Hey, just sleep peacefully by yourself. Wait a minute. Let me draw a 10-shot combo. The extra favorability points will be the ladder to my desire. Those who can control their hands are not called 10 company people. 10 company people. 10 company souls. 10 company people are the best at once. Stamina potion as usual. As well as. Ding. Congratulations on achieving the max pottery crafting skill. No words were spoken that night. Until Lioli's voice sounded outside the house, sounding a little anxious. Brother Suyu, are you awake? That apple tree you planted, it's a little strange. What? What happened to the apple tree? Suyu woke up at the start. Wasn't just planted a few days ago. It cost me several hundred points of favorability. After putting on her clothes quietly and covering herself with a thin blanket, Suyu came to the entrance and lifted the animal curtain. Outside the door was the anxious Lioli girl. When she saw Suyu showing up, she immediately seemed to have a backbone and her expression relaxed. What happened? Did the plants die? Or were they dug up? Suyu led Lioli more than 10 steps away from the big house and asked as they walked. Things produced by the system won't die. Chapter 75, The Strange Apple Tree, 2. If it had been dug up by someone without a clear vision, it was possible, but that piece of land was specifically used for planting, and Winnie had passed on a message that it was strictly forbidden to touch anything planted there. The witches were very disciplined, and Suyu knew this very well. Could it be from another camp? Neither. Hey, Brother Suyu, take a look for yourself. The two of them turned a corner in the camp. Without the obstruction of Winnie's giant branches and leaves, their view became wider. Lioli raised her hand and pointed in the direction of the planting area. She hadn't recovered from the shock of noticing something strange this morning. Because it's incredible. Suyu looked in the direction of the finger. Good guy, what a good guy. A towering tree, lush with branches and leaves, laden with fruit, suddenly rose from the ground, startling him and instantly waking him from sleep. The tree was as tall as a 3-story building, its branches stretching out to cover nearly the entire plantation. Its sturdy trunk was even taller than Winnie's tree house, and despite being shorter, it was almost a complete victory. Yesterday was seemingly normal, but overnight, it was like a divine attack from heaven. No wonder Lioli was frightened. Apple trees grow into seedlings at an extremely fast speed. The corner of Suyu's mouth twitched, as if she understood what it meant. There was no one under the huge shade of the tree. There were a group of women around, talking in low voices. The sudden appearance of such a large tree in the camp's planting area was unbelievable. Furthermore, its lush branches and leaves were laden with fist-sized, glowing red fruits. The witches had never seen one before and dared not approach rashly. They all expressed a mixture of curiosity and fear, whispering to each other. It is human nature to remain in awe when faced with unknown things that subvert our worldview. Which Su is here? Someone in the crowd shouted, and the women exclaimed, making way for them. Si Jiao and other men were standing at the outermost edge, silently watching this miraculous scene. Which Su, did you plant this tree? How did it suddenly grow so big? And were those fruits? Are they edible? Su Dao, you look even more handsome today. The witches chattered. Hi, if you can talk more. Suyu waved her hand, signaling everyone to be quiet. She slowly moved under the shade of the tree. Seeing the witch's pleading eyes, she nodded and smiled. Don't worry, everyone. This tree was indeed planted by me. It's not dangerous. The fruit on the tree is called apple. It's edible. It's very sweet and juicy. Pop. An apple then fell and hit Suyu on the head. Oh well, sorry, I didn't need to discover gravity. In this world, Even 10 layers of coffin lids are not enough to crush you. Is it really edible? Is it sweet? Is it the same thing as sweet bamboo? And the nest of flying insects, maybe that's the smell. I said this must have been made by Su Dao. That fruit is his new invention. I really want to eat it. I want to eat anything that belongs to Su Dao. It seems like there's something strange going on. Did I understand it wrong? Suyu picked up the fallen apple and waved to Lioli. Brother Suyu, what's going on? Lioli and the others were no longer as reserved as they were at the beginning after receiving Suyu's answer. She stepped closer and cautiously took the fruit that Suyu handed over. Try it first. Lioli nodded, and then, under everyone's expectant gaze, she opened her cherry-like mouth and took a bite. The flesh was sweet and refreshing, and the juice overflowed in her mouth. Lioli's whole body perked up, her eyes wide open, as if she had eaten something extraordinary. Suyu glanced at the bitten apple. The flesh wasn't that firm, but rather juicy, red with a hint of yellow, and translucent. It probably had a crunchy texture. Suyu actually enjoyed eating this kind of soft, crunchy appleback on Blue Star, given her poor teeth back then. It's so delicious. Brother Suyu, what kind of fruit is this? Why is it so sweet? Lioli ate it with delight, her eyes and eyebrows smiling. As long as it tastes good, you can find someone to climb up and pick all the fruits later. Suyu said, looking at the witches again, everyone, go and do your work. Remember to come here at dusk to get some fruits and a bathtub. The story of the bathtubs had spread early in the morning. After all, there are dozens of huge wooden tubs glued together and assembled in the large open space next to the apple tree, which shocked them for a while. Through Shaylee and Lee's stories, they soon learned the truth. A new source of water underground, utensils for bathing alone, and new food. The triple surprise early in the morning made the witches full of surprises today. They were so excited that they didn't want to go out. Just as Suyu had expected, these women were eager to bathe, almost more than anything else. Hearing about being able to bathe in a wooden tub using natural water was both novel and exciting. They had never been so eager for darkness before, and even wondered if the sun above them was a bit redundant. All right. Didn't everyone hear what Su Dao said? Let's go about our own business. Everyone will have some in the evening. If you work hard, maybe Su Dao will give you more rewards. Hey, I'm already looking forward to it. The leading witches of each task force began to shout, evacuating everyone. Soon, the area under the apple tree became quiet again. You go take care of your own business. I'll go up and take a look. Suyu baited Liulia's shoulder. The girl hummed, still chewing her apple. Suyu exerted force on one leg and leaped up. Like an arrow from a bow, she landed on the thick tree trunk. The tree trunks are interconnected, as if to embrace the heaven and earth. Each root stretches out, naturally forming a huge space. Suyu picked an apple casually and took a bite. It had a pine-like texture, and juice overflowed like sweet honey, wrapping around the tip of her tongue and caressing her taste buds. The sweetness was just right, and it tasted better than the ones on Blue Star. Looking around, Suyu's eyes lit up. Above this space, there were sparse branches and leaves that blocked most of the dazzling sunlight, and below, there were thick tree trunks that supported the heaven and earth like giant arms. If a small wooden house was built on it, it would be extremely cozy and comfortable. The tree house is quiet, has great views and lighting, and its beauty and comfort are completely incomparable to Winnie's tree hole. When the time comes, twist some hemp ropes and make a hanging ladder to make it easier to go up and down. At night, my wife and I look up at the stars on this roof. Hee, slurp, slurp, slurp. There's no need to trouble Si Jiao and the others with this. It's my own little vacation home, so of course I have to do it myself. So, another plan was written into the agenda. Fortunately, many things are now entrusted to the small boss, otherwise I would really die from overwork. Standing high up, Suyu gazed out. Between the interlocking mountain ranges, the jungle stretched far to the horizon. Beyond the mountains, dark clouds gathered in the sky, hinting at a rainstorm. Rainstorms were rare in this era, and perhaps due to the strange climate of summer during the day and winter at night, rainfall was scarce, rarely seen for over a month. But for some reason, Su Yu's eyebrows twitched, as if he sensed a hint of dullness and blood beneath the dark, cloudy sky. It was abstract, yet deeply stimulating to his senses. He sniffed gently, and besides the fresh scent of apple, there was also a hint of danger. Could it be that a top-tier warrior also possessed the ability to sense danger? Suyu stared intently at the sky in the distance that was about to set, as if she wanted to see through everything, her eyes becoming deep and sharp. Chapter 76, The Strange Apple Tree, 3. Brother Suyu, where are you? I'm here to find you. A familiar shout came to her ears, and Suyu came back to her senses and looked down. The sportswear, washed until pale, was hung out to dry in the main room. Kokoro changed into Lin's newly sewn cotton and linen clothes and a short animal skin skirt, revealing her healthy, wheat-colored calves as she ran over with a bound. Hey, I'm here, Kokoro. Suyu picked another apple and jumped down, landing in front of Kokoro. The dust was raised, which scared the little girl so much that she quickly covered her eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a red fruit and that familiar handsome face. Brother Suyu, what is this? It's edible fruit. Suyu handed it over. Kokoro took it with a grunt and, like Liuli, took a bite without thinking. Oh. Her expression immediately started to get exaggerated. Her big watery eyes started to sparkle, and her voice was filled with excitement and joy. That's great, Brother Suyu. Crunch, crunch, and a few more bites. His mouth was stuffed like a hamster. His mouth was obviously very small, but he could take such big bites at once. Suyu scraped the sticky juice from the corner of Kiki Luo's mouth and asked, Where's Yaxiang? Is she awake? Kokoro raised her little head and nodded. You woke up. You told me you were going out hunting. You wanted to catch more wild animals that we could raise. Suyu rubbed Kiki Luo's head vigorously again. Do you want to eat more? Kokoro shook her head. No, I feel bloated after eating one, I still have to help brother. Suyu raised the beasts. Ever since the round table meeting last night, Kokoro had been looking forward to this job. Over the years, she had helped the tribe clean meat and dissect animals alongside her sister, Lin, but this was her first time raising animals. There was a gleam in his eyes, like stars in the night sky. So good. Suyu praised that the tribe was short of manpower now, so he thought of letting Kokoro do this. Where are the wild animals that Yaxiang and the others caught yesterday? I know, Brother Suyu. Sister Yaxiang told me that. Kokoro smiled proudly and took Suyu out from under the shade of the apple tree. Around the corner from the plantation, inside an uninhabited tent, wild animals lay sprawled, their limbs bound with hemp ropes, unable to move. Some, like the ferocious wolves, had even their mouths bound. They lay on the ground, whimpering, their teeth bared, their eyes fierce, yet there was nothing they could do. These should be 2 wolf cubs with thin bodies, long limbs, protruding noses, upright and slightly pointed ears, and they looked similar to dogs with gray-yellow hair and a little white on their lower abdomen. Kokoro felt a little timid when she saw this scene. The animals she dissected before were all dead. They were not dangerous and would not glare at you or bare their fangs at you. Kokoro grabbed Suyu's hand and hid behind her. It's okay. Don't be afraid. They will be quiet soon. Suyu smiled gently and walked up to the 2 newly grown wolves. He placed his hands on their skulls. Beast taming. When using the beast taming technique for the first time, one would naturally choose weaker ones. Based on the strength comparison between the 2, the success rate could be almost 100%. As Suyu's mind moved, a surge of magical power erupted from the palm of her hand, invading the wolf cub's brain and flowing through its body. The young wolf's strength was very weak, not even third-rate, and there was no magical power in his body at all. He was directly taken over by Suyu's magical power. The fierce eyes were empty for a moment, and then gradually regained their brightness. But there was no longer the fierce and bloodthirsty ruthlessness that he had when facing Suyu. This appearance does not mean that the beast has lost its ferocity, but that it simply will not attack its owner. Immediately, a series of prompt sounds rang in my ears. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully taming the wolf cub. Ding! The beast has been tamed successfully for the first time, and the growth value of the beast taming skill is enabled. Ding! Because the wolf cub is at a relatively low level and cannot meet the automatic growth value conditions, it is now classified as a low-quality pet. Good. Suyu smiled and untied the hemp ropes that bound the 2 wolf cubs. Brother Suyu, be careful. Kokoro behind him was almost scared out of her wits. Of course she knew that Suyu was very powerful, but she was worried that the released beast would hurt the person she loved. Don't worry, it won't bite us. Suyu pulled Kokoro to her side and patted the wolf cub's head. This is also your master. Do you hear me? The 2 young wolves whimpered, raised their heads, and looked at Kokoro several times, then seemed to understand what she meant and squeezed Kokoro's calf with their foreheads. Kokoro was so frightened that her body froze and she dared not move. When she felt a furry creature rubbing against her, she let out a sound and looked at the wolf cub at her feet in surprise. Brother Suyu, do they listen to you? I'll listen to you now. Suyu scratched Kokoro's nose. Really? Kokoro's eyes lit up. You can try to touch them. Yes. Kokoro believed Suyu's words and carefully reached out her hand. The two wolf cubs not only did not dodge, but also licked Kokoro's palm with their tongues. Then they let her stroke their heads and lay quietly on the ground. So interesting. Kokoro's childish heart was aroused, and she couldn't let it go. Suyu was really worried that this guy would raise the wolf cub into two huskies. There were two wolf cubs, one male and one female, although they were not within Suyu's consideration for raising them. What Suyu wants is a type that can provide sustainable development in the long term. For example, pheasants, wild chickens, wild boars, bison, goats, etc. Wolves are carnivorous mammals, but they're also territorial and social creatures. Even if they give birth to cubs, you can't kill and eat them right in front of them. Generally speaking, a normal wolf pack will have more than 7, and some may even have dozens. Young wolves stay with the pack as they grow up to care for their younger siblings. So how did Yaxiang and the others capture him? Don't let anyone destroy their entire nest. However, considering the background of this era, Suyu felt relieved. You two just follow Kokoro well, and things will get better in the future. Suyu patted the two wolf cubs once again. The two little guys stuck out their tongues, laughed, and wagged their tails, already looking like dogs. Except for the two wolf cubs, the rest are pheasants, goats, and the like, totaling 18. It is not a large number, but it is very suitable for Kokoro to start with no damage. Suyu turned around and called a witch from the nearest tent over. The three of them brought the animals to the southwest of the planting area. The trees there had not been cut down yet. Suyu chopped a few trees nearby with a bone knife, and then relied on her witchcraft power to cut out a lot of wooden strips. She hammered the strips into the ground, used the trees as pillars, and fenced off a new piece of land. This kind of small fence is only suitable for raising small animals, such as chickens and ducks. If wild boars or bison are caught, Suyu will have to build a larger fence. The pheasants and goats were then released, and Suyu and Kokoro explained the feeding procedures. Without feed, and since the pheasants and goats didn't eat meat, they needed to prepare some grass and plant branches. There were plenty of these in the forest, so they could just wander around the camp. Kokoro nodded, taking Suyu's every word to heart. She immediately got into the role and began to take care of these small animals that were about to evolve into livestock. To put it bluntly, it meant keeping an eye on them and not letting them run around. If they got sick or injured, Kokoro could use her magic to heal them. Soon, Lily had found 2 tribesmen to help pick fruit. Both were young and beautiful girls, with a stronger build than Lioli, lively and active, with ponytails and in very good spirits. When they saw Suyu, they smiled and greeted her. Suyu felt that she looked familiar. After a moment's thought, she realized that this was the girl who had learned archery from her 2 days ago. When a number of people was small, these people had become the common tools of the tribe. Suyu couldn't help but think of Lan Xing's famous working saying, "I'm just a brick, I can be moved wherever I am needed." The camp was filled with strong messages of insufficient manpower. After hearing Lioli's words, the 2 girls quickly climbed up the apple tree. Their movements were nimble and light, evidently veterans of tree climbing. In that era, people who wanted to reach the fruit from a tree usually threw stones or hit it with long sticks. If they couldn't knock it down, or encountered a fruit that was not suitable for knocking down, they would climb up and pick it themselves. The shrine maidens, accustomed to this kind of task, naturally made it easy. They quickly climbed up the trunk and stood on a thick branch. Under the apple tree, Liuli found a few layers of animal skins, stacked them together, and then nodded and shouted at the tree. "Okay, you can start picking." Upon hearing this, the girls took action, picking plump and ripe apples and throwing them towards the animal hide. The apples fell one by one thanks to the elasticity of the hide, but they didn't suffer any damage. Liuli was happily collecting them below, carefully putting them away and arranging them neatly on another hide rug. This joyful scene, like a good harvest, brought back some fond memories of Suyu's childhood on the farm. Suyu thought that picking an apple wouldn't be a big problem, so she ignored it and first took a look at the bathtub in the open space. The gum was almost completely dry and hard, and the wooden boards were tightly connected. She estimated that there would be no problem using it at night. Next was the well. The water buckets were ready. Si Jiao had installed the wooden frame and hemp rope for the windlass early in the morning. Suyu had discussed this with him last night and explained the general method. Si Jiao was very smart and did not disappoint Suyu. Suyu fetched water from the well alone. Unlike lake water, the groundwater was clear, cool, and refreshing with a subtle sweetness. After confirming the well's location, Suyu gathered more rocks and piled them around the well's edge. This would prevent children from straying in and falling in. Of course, when the bathtubs were distributed that evening and the well's location was announced, it would also be mentioned to alert the women. After everything was done, Suyu left the plantation and went to the archery practice area outside the camp. This time he was not here to supervise the girls' archery practice, but for other things. Compared to the previous 2 days, the girls' archery posture and accuracy had improved significantly. Some girls even spontaneously wrapped their fingers with linen to better protect their hands while shooting. Suyu was very happy to see this progress. Being able to draw inferences from one example meant that they were undergoing transformation. After taking a quick look, Suyu changed direction. Just opposite the archery practice area, there was an area the size of a basketball court. Due to geological problems, it was bare and the dust was as thick as a wasteland. At this moment, several girls were playing mischievously on the field, while the quiet ones were squatting quietly on the edge of the wasteland, leaning against the trees, daydreaming and lost in thought. There is no television, mobile phones, computers, or games in this world, and no one knows what these girls think about when they are quiet. Including Suyu himself. If he had not been too busy with the development of the tribe, he would probably have become a salted fish, only knowing how to hunt and accompany his wife to make children every day. Chapter 77, Special Magic Power, Gaga Gaga. There are 7 girls in total. If Shaylee hadn't asked Suyu last night, there should be 6 now. They are Dragonfly, who has the element of gravity, Dongshuang, who has the ability of illusion, Amin, who has the ability of space delay, Mingyue, who has the ability of space teleportation, Xuanchen, who has the ability of mind connection, Ruoxing, who has the ability of perception, and Shaylee, who has the ability of water element. They were the witches with special abilities that Suyu had paid special attention to at the witches' convention. These girls had special abilities that could have some miraculous effects on the battlefield. In terms of combat power alone, if they each tap into their hidden potential, they may be more powerful than ordinary elemental priestesses. Of course, their abilities primarily focus on surprise, leaving you defenseless and even defenseless. Elemental Miko are different, harnessing the power of the elements purely for their simplicity and directness. Once they reach their peak, they become the embodiment of violence. Gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, and darkness. It can be said that none of them can be underestimated. Even the seemingly gentlest wood and the softest breeze can make you feel what it feels like to explode instantly and spiral into the sky. The skill of making whatever you shout come true is not just boasting. Sudal, you asked Sister Shaylee to find us. What's the matter? The most lively and cheerful of the group was, of course, the escape artist Mingyue, who had just turned 17. According to her mother, Mingyue's first awakening was the most bizarre. Due to the unbearable pain and the chaotic flow of her magical power, her body automatically moved through space, and then, inexplicably, all of her magical power suddenly vanished. Miraculously, most of the voodoo in her body also disappeared, allowing her to survive. In other words, as long as I teleport fast enough, the magic power can't keep up with me? The others also came over. Xuanchen, who had the ability to connect with the mind, didn't like to talk and was rather introverted, so he stood at the back and secretly glanced at Suyu. Of course it's something. Suyu smiled and asked the 7 girls to sit in a circle. Then she said, "Your abilities are quite special, so I plan to put you together to form a special group." A special small group? What are they doing? The lively Yiming also asked, snorting. Without her sister around, she felt like she was doing fine again. As for what to do, you naturally need to hone your abilities first. Suyu said, as the tribe continues to develop, conflict with other tribes will undoubtedly arise in the future. That's when you can step forward and contribute your strength to the tribe. Really? Mingyue blinked her eyes excitedly. Sudao, are you trying to make us laugh? Meng pouted a little unhappily. There are 53 witches in the tribe. Everyone else has a training plan, but they didn't get it. They all felt that their abilities were useless, so Suyu didn't like them. 2 girls were even disappointed for a while because of this. Who amused you? I have been in the tribe for so long, and I have never lied to you. Suyu reached out and rubbed a Meng's head. This girl was even more unruly than Li, but because Su Yu was the chief witch of the tribe, she could only coo like an angry little tiger, lowering her head and allowing Su Yu to bully her. But our abilities are really useless. I prefer Sister Yaxiang, who can use flames. It's very convenient to light a fire and grill meat. The quiet Xuanchen murmured softly. She was probably the thinnest of the 7 people, giving people the impression of a shy little sister next door. The thoughts and knowledge of these witches are very constrained, so it is naturally difficult for them to change suddenly. They can only do it slowly and not rush into anything. Su Yu glanced at Ruoxing, who was standing next to Xuanchen. She didn't comment, but the disappointment on her face was clear. She said to them, Xuanchen and Ruoxing, although your combat abilities aren't strong, your support skills are unmatched. If you two team up, we won't have to worry about sneak attacks on the battlefield. A perception capability similar to a map radar. A Skynet-like ability that can connect to designated targets and communicate with each other mentally. If this happened on a normal battlefield, the enemy would probably not even know how they were killed. Communication has always been an indispensable means on the battlefield. Intelligence sources, the team's combat progress, and enemy data collected all require communication to provide timely feedback to the rear. How can we achieve communication in this era where mobile phones, telegraphs, and even carrier pigeons do not exist? By yelling? Xuanchen's ability solved this problem precisely. She could establish a telepathic link with anyone, allowing both parties to communicate directly through their minds. As long as the distance between them remained within a certain range, the link would persist. Of course, the more people she linked, and the greater the distance, the greater the drain on her magical power. However, this could be enhanced through practice and increasing her magical power. As long as you haven't reached the upper limit of your ability, it's not a problem. The girls before him lacked confidence in their own abilities, and this could be perfectly resolved through war. As long as they realized how much their abilities could contribute to the battle, everything would be easily resolved. Of course, sending them to the battlefield now would be tantamount to sending them to their deaths. So in order to achieve this, a war drill must be arranged. Before that, the first priority is to develop a training plan for them and improve their respective abilities. What about us, Great Witch Su? Can a Meng and Ai's abilities really help everyone? Mingyue glanced over with her big watery eyes and tugged at a Meng beside her. The two girls were usually naughty kids who played mischief together. They never thought about how much their abilities would contribute to the tribe. Su Yu smiled. Of course. Mingyue, your ability is teleportation. Starting tomorrow, you could try practicing to see if you can teleport something other than yourself. Then learn to teleport a designated item to a designated location. Remember, you must never use it on your tribe members, okay? Your ability is not stable yet. If you harm your tribe members, there's no way to recover. This ability is really scary when it's not a joke. If she teleports someone, and because of her lack of ability, only the upper body is sent out, then the person will be dead on the spot. Okay, Master Buitsu. Fortunately, these girls have deep feelings for their tribesmen, and as soon as the possibility of hurting each other was mentioned, they immediately restrained their playful mentality. What about me? A Meng asked proudly, crossing his arms. To be honest, he was still a little skeptical about a Meng's ability. The space was slow, and there were too many elements involved, which caused the objects in an area to move at a slower speed. This factor could be gravity, or the normal flow of time being slowed down, or it could be just a straightforward and simple definition of this area, similar to the specific abilities of the word and domain. The area was affected by the will of the witch, thus slowing down everything. The character introduction in the system is quite simple, just 2 words, slow. However, there's no need to worry too much about this matter now. At least we should know the results of this ability and what it can do. So you thought for a moment and said, Ameng, starting tomorrow, try to expand the size of the slow zone. Oh, what happened next? Ameng rolled her eyes. Once you're proficient in controlling the expansion area, try shrinking it to a specific object and see if you can do it. But don't worry about the rest. Practice expanding the area first. Expanding and shrinking again. So you was really afraid that this girl would not be able to think flexibly and would become stupid from the training. Next, so you set the training direction for Dragonfly with gravity element and Dongshuang with illusion ability, and finally looked at Shaylee. If Shaylee had not taken the initiative to tell him about her confusion yesterday, Su Yu would not have discovered Shaylee's peculiarity. In the tribe, Shaylee is not the only one who is friendly to the water element, but she is the only one who can sense the water content in the human blood. For this purpose, Suyu also specifically asked several other witches, and the answers they got were basically the same. They could only sense the water elements in the surrounding air or underground, and had no reaction at all to the liquid elements in the human body. This should be some kind of mutation in her ability. Shaylee is often responsible for making clean water for the tribe's witches to bathe, so her foundation in witchcraft is naturally more solid. Perhaps it is this invisible training that has caused her ability to change. Being able to sense the water content of blood in the human body might seem like a trivial ability at first glance. But what if she could not only sense it, but also control it? That's pretty scary. Just imagine that a witch comes close to you and does nothing, but your head explodes. This is not much better than a horror movie. Shaylee, the tribe's bathing problem will be solved today, so you don't have to worry about it anymore and focus on training your magic power. I will have the hunting team try to catch some intact beasts for you to train. If you can control the blood flow in their bodies, let me know. Okay, great Witch Sue. After explaining the specific plans to everyone, the meeting was disbanded. Looking at the backs of the 7 girls leaving, Suyu felt a little complicated and couldn't help but think of a rumor about the witches. A third awakened, which is as good as a great witch. The more she understood, the more true this sentence became to her. He even began to wonder, was the Crescent Moon tribe's purpose in suppressing the witches really just because they killed men and hindered the reproduction of the human race? Then why are the other alliance forces lying dormant and not expressing their views? Some people fear power. Some people crave power. Some people want to gain power. While thinking about all these random things, a sudden attribute prompt sound interrupted Suyu's chaotic thoughts. Ding! New quest released. Defeat the incoming Crescent Moon tribe. Key character, Song Ding Tian. Countdown, 59 days, 1328. Rewards awarded based on completion. Chapter 78 Mountain Beast. Dark clouds are pressing down on the city, threatening to destroy it. The dark clouds in the sky were like soldiers in armor and helmets, with smoke billowing from the sky, pressing down towards the mountains and forests. In the end, the sun failed to safely fall below the horizon and was swallowed by dark clouds, losing its light. This deep mountain was about 100 miles away from Suyu's camp. The pitch-black clouds fell like the night. Suddenly, there was a huge tremor in the forest. A sharp roar scared the wild beasts in all directions, as if it wanted to disperse the black clouds. The sound was as shrill as a huge bell, and the buzzing sound was endless, sometimes turning into a dull roar. Click! Snap! Snap! As towering trees were crushed by the heavy objects, a massive black shadow gradually emerged. Over 20 meters tall, its massive form resembled a mythical ancient beast, Godzilla, from the blue planet. Atop its mountainous head, 2 crystalline eyes shone like a pitch-black sun, eerie as the abyss. Threads of blood-red spiderwebs spread out, revealing an endless ferocity and bloodlust. Its sturdy limbs, carrying immense strength, uprooted a massive tree with a single, effortless grab and flung it away. Mud and rocks flew everywhere, and the weak beast wailed incessantly. Its back and limbs were covered in a layer of scales as thick as rock, but several of these scales had vanished, and it was constantly oozing bright red blood. Its tail was as thick as a long, narrow cone, and the leather on it was covered with sharp spikes. If it were to strike a human, it would be instantly destroyed. Mountain Beast. A nightmare for small and medium-sized tribes. A ferocious beast that strikes fear in even large tribes. Even 1,000 warriors might not be able to defeat it if ordinary warriors engaged. Even top-tier warriors rarely dared to confront it alone. Its destructive power multiplied several times after reaching adulthood. Its leather armor was as hard as rock, impenetrable even to ordinary iron swords. Roar! However, the mountain beast, which was so strong, was slapped away by its opponent at this moment, and its scales were forcibly lifted up, revealing the bright red flesh inside, 2 deep and eye-catching blood holes and torn wounds. The blood was soaked with dark green mucus, and it flowed like a spring. A deep roar, a mingled blend of depression, resentment, and fury, shook the leaves in the valley like snow. Countless weak beasts had already become dead souls beneath their feet, trampled to death in the chaotic battle, thrown away, crushed by boulders, or crushed by suddenly falling trees. Even the notoriously ferocious wolves and lions, their packs and tribes, trembled in fear under the terrifying shadow of the mountain beasts, and ultimately chose to flee in panic. No one knew why this mountain beast had suddenly gone mad. It had lived in this mountain range for decades, and the loudest noise it made was just a roll on the ground. Mountain beasts didn't need to eat frequently, and their favorite food was iron ore. Each meal of tens of thousands of pounds of iron ore was enough to sustain them for nearly a decade without worrying about hunger. The beasts couldn't understand why the monster, which was as big as a mountain, had gone berserk today. They had no time to discover the truth, because the moment they woke up and opened their eyes, the huge figure of the mountain beast came down like a hell. Of course, the wild beasts that were not affected by the sudden chaos hid behind the huge rocks in the jungle, trembling. For the first time, they felt so small, and their frightened eyes reflected the terrifying figure of the mountain beast and the equally gloomy and terrifying monster opposite it. Roar! Hiss, hiss, hiss! A dark gray python, roughly 100 meters long, hissed with a bloody roar. Its torso rose high, level with the mountain beast's. Its head bore a pair of bizarre, barbed horns, resembling both a wild beast and a dragon. Its body was covered in thick leather armor, its eyes like two abyssal demonic caves. It shot out two terrifying rays of light, sharp as swords, seemingly capable of ripping its opponent apart. Its bloody maw gaped, its pale fangs stained with dark green venom. With a nimble twist of its body and a seemingly gentle flick of its tail, the surrounding trees and jungle were cleared away, a true desktop cleaning master. At this moment, 3 bloody wounds were cut on the python's abdomen, and dark green, highly toxic venom flowed out. The venom dripped onto the ground, and the soil began to emit green smoke. The flesh and bones of the beasts that were accidentally affected melted away, and even their blood turned into steam and dissipated into the air. The 2 giant beasts stared at each other for a few seconds, roared again, and collided with each other. The blast of sorcerous energy, like a super-strong hurricane, sent flying the remaining boulders and trees. The frightened beasts, their bodies frozen and trembling in place, ultimately could not escape their fate. Their frail bodies were blown away, shattered into pieces by the turbulent currents of sorcerous energy and wind. Bang! The mountain beast's huge arms once again grabbed the giant python, but one side was stiff, the other side was flexible, one side had thick skin and flesh, and the other side had infinite resilience. When a mountain beast's palm touched the giant python's abdomen, it was easily dodged. It would not suffer a loss twice. The giant python swam away, but its tail came with a lightning-fast swipe, slapping the mountain beast's thigh with a loud bang. There was only a series of crackling sounds, and the surface of the mountain beast's scales cracked, and some of them were directly shattered, like a meteorite falling from the sky, crashing down, and the ground was instantly smashed like a honeycomb. Roar! Pain came from the leg, and the original wound also burst open. The mountain beast let out a low wail, and its big hand slapped the giant python's head again. Solid as a rock, it is a symbol of the strength of mountain beasts. However, speed is its fatal weakness. The disparity was especially pronounced against a nimble opponent like the giant python. The giant python dodged once more, but the beast's palm slapped the air, causing its center of gravity to shift, sending it careening forward. The python, seizing its opportunity, coordinated its head and body, instantly slithered upward from beneath the beast's feet, locking onto its limbs and torso. Python, known for his strength, his most powerful and direct method is to strangle his opponents. Even a mountain beast with a strength of 1,000 pounds would find it difficult to break free from such restraints. Roar! Feeling the giant python's body getting tighter and tighter, the beast's eyes finally turned completely red. Its originally pitch-black pupils were dyed blood red. It let out a roar that seemed to be able to penetrate the sky and earth. It struggled hard, and its arms could hear the sound of scales rubbing against each other. The giant python's body could not withstand such a heavy force, and the feeling of tearing and squeezing instantly spread throughout its body. It had to let go immediately, and instead strangled the beast's lower body. The beast regained its freedom, its large hands instinctively tearing at the python's body. The python's belly, solid and resilient, surged with magical power from nowhere, hoisting the beast into the air. This is an adult mountain beast, and its weight alone exceeds 10,000 pounds, yet the giant python was actually hung up directly. The giant python completely ignored the angry roar of the mountain beast, swung its tail, and slammed it to the ground again and again. The ground on both sides was smashed into pieces, the ground collapsed, and there were potholes everywhere. The linked mountains also shook slightly, and huge rocks rolled down in response. It was really a landslide. Roar, roar. After being struck dozens of times, the beast's initial roar finally lost its explosive force, leaving it whimpering like a wounded puppy. Its scales crumbled and shattered, leaving its entire tail a patchwork of red and green, a mixture of colors that burned its skin and sent plumes of burning smoke rising. Crash! At the same time, there was a loud thunder in the sky. Narrow golden flashes blazed in the sky, their crackling sounds irritating the eardrums of the two giant beasts. Rain poured down like a galaxy, bursting its banks. The water washed the devastated landscape with all its might. The giant python spat out a red letter, letting the rain drip into its mouth before opening its massive jaws and biting down. Chapter 79 Mountain Beasts 2. Two pale, hook-like fangs pierced the beast's neck and penetrated its body. Gurgling green venom mixed with rainwater poured directly into its body. Roar! Sizzle! The roar shook the rain away, and the brightness of the beast's eyes dimmed visibly, as if preparing a desperate counterattack. The beast roared continuously, its huge hands and thorny tail dancing wildly. The giant python was biting and biting, and when it noticed the beast's movement, it quickly tried to close its mouth, but was still hit hard in the side of the face by the fatal blow. A tremendous force erupted from the side of its mouth, lodging one of its fangs in its neck and severing it completely. The intense pain, even sharper than the wound in its abdomen, instantly irritated its nerves. The python barely had time to scream in pain before the beast grabbed its sharp horn and flung it flying. There was a loud bang, and the mountain was broken at the waist, and huge rocks rolled down and flooded the valley. The world seemed to have finally quieted down, with only the heavy rain still pouring down. After a long moment, a roar erupted from the boulders. The rocks were shaken apart, and the giant python slowly swam out, its pupils filled with wounded anger. However, when it peered through the rain to find the beast, it discovered that its opponent had already fled. Hiss, hiss. The giant python stared at the huge rain curtain for a long time. After making sure that there was no trace of mountain beasts around, and really escaped, it dived into the valley where the other party had lived for decades. Although it lost a tooth and suffered serious injuries, it still managed to seize this new territory. Who is Song Ding Tian? So you didn't know. But combined with the surname Song and the name of the tribe, the result is obvious. He must have some connection with Song Sheng, who was beaten to death by him. 2 months was enough to defeat the enemy, a result that could only be easily achieved if one knew both oneself and the enemy. If this Song Ding Tian was the great shaman of the Crescent Moon tribe, then he was doomed. Therefore, what he needed to do now was to obtain intelligence, and then use that intelligence to formulate a more in-depth response plan. Fortunately, obtaining this information was not as difficult as imagined. There are former members of the Crescent Moon tribe and the eldest daughter of the White Tiger Alliance in the tribe, and they all know something more or less. Back at the camp, the tribesmen had all returned one after another. Suyu happened to see Si Jiao carrying stones and wood, so she greeted him. Looking up, the mountains in the distance were still being washed by the heavy rain, but the sky in their own area was still bright and dry. The tribesmen were already accustomed to the strange climate, and no one paid special attention to it. Go and call all the tribesmen over and gather them at the planting site. They will be given fruits, bathtubs, and other bathing supplies later. All right, Great Witch Su. Si Jiao was slightly stunned upon hearing this. He had actually thought that their camp wouldn't get any of the supplies this time. After all, some of their people were still slaves. Unexpectedly, Great Witch Su treated them all equally, truly treating them as his own. Surprised, Si Jiao was about to leave when Suyu called him back. The amount of stones and wood is almost ready. We will have to transport them tomorrow and start building the house the day after tomorrow. I have put this matter in the charge of Li. I will give you the construction drawings. If you encounter any problems in the construction, tell Li and she will pass them on to me. Suyu told Si Jiao the plan, and Si Jiao nodded immediately. After confirming that there were no other instructions, Si Jiao excitedly returned to his camp. The tribesmen were all in high spirits today, and they walked back much faster than usual. After all, they had learned about the bathing plan that morning, and the women were all looking forward to it. After a short rest and dinner, some of the tribesmen even crouched under the apple tree, holding the roasted beef shanks. The apples piled up like a small hill. Leoli placed them on the animal skin rug, carefully picking out the broken ones and placing them on the other side. The little girl looked at the broken apples, frowning in pain as if she had lost a large sum of money. Moreover, she felt as if a few were missing. Didn't someone steal it? To one side of the bored waiting crowd, Xiao Hunyang, as tall as a hill, could be seen sneaking around in the cabbage patch with Xiao Huahua crouching down and staring at the sprouts. Suyu approached and snorted softly. This woman raised her head, twisting her waist excitedly as she approached. So you've grown something weird again? What's that white thing? Is it edible? Of course you can eat it. It's not cooked yet. Xiao Huahua showed an expression of as expected and laughed. Let me taste it when the time comes. It's not impossible, but I have to exchange something. Suyu curled the corners of her mouth and had an idea. But I have nothing now. Maybe you have. Suyu Ismail. Apart from the temporary tent Winnie had sent her to live in, Xiao Huahua was now truly broke, and the food she ate was all Winnie had kindly given her. Xiao Huahua rolled her eyes, turned sideways, as if avoiding the tribe's gaze, her cheeks slightly flushed as she whispered, "You really do want me to be your woman." The last time Suyu rejected her, Xiao Huahua pondered for a long time and finally concluded that she was so fair and beautiful that no man would not be attracted to her. So Suyu must have been too embarrassed to speak up. After all, there was someone else around at the time. Suyu was suddenly choked by the words and subconsciously glanced at Xiao Huahua. "Don't talk nonsense." "I didn't. I'm telling you something serious." Suyu glanced around and glared at Xiao Huahua. "Let's stop this topic now." After thinking for a while, he said, "Let's talk about it later." "So what do you want?" Xiao Huahua snorted, automatically ignoring the word in the future. She felt that she was not that bad. "Do you want it or not?" Xiao Hunyang yawned beside her. Her body was still recovering, so she often dozed off. If the young lady hadn't been bored and came out for a stroll, she would have been lying on the hay and snoring. "Do you know the Crescent Moon tribe?" Suyu asked, changing the subject. Xiao Huahua nodded. "Of course I know. That tribe is west of our alliance territory. It's quite far, about 8 or 9 days' walk. We've had contact with them before, and we've exchanged some resources." "Oh, then do you know if there's anyone named Song Dingtian in their tribe?" Since he was named by the system, he should not be an unknown person. Xiao Huahua was slightly stunned and looked at Suyu suspiciously, as if puzzled. "Do you know him?" "I don't know, I just want to know." Suyu shook her head. "So do you know?" Xiao Huahua proudly crossed her arms across her chest, holding up 2 huge mountains. "Of course I know. He's the son of Song Dao from the Crescent Moon tribe. He's very powerful." "How powerful is he?" "Not a great wizard. That's easy. The great wizard song of the Crescent Moon tribe is very famous in the Alliance. He is a warrior born and raised in the Crescent Moon tribe, and the only great wizard in the tribe who is not bound by the heavenly oath. Of course, these are not the main points. The reason why he is so powerful is because he created his own combat skills." Xiao Huahua exclaimed. "A great wizard who can create his own combat skills is definitely a top existence in this world, with active thinking and profound knowledge." Suyu frowned and rolled her eyes. "What I'm asking about now is his son." Chapter 80 Baiwa and Guagua. "Hey, I know." Xiao Huahua put her hands on her waist and continued. "He has 3 sons. Song Dingtian is his eldest son. The next one is called Song Yuanshan, and the youngest is called Song Sheng." "Oh, Sujue Nadif. Sorry, he only has 2 sons left now. In 2 months, there might be 1 less." Suyu continued to ask, "What about their strength?" "Well, according to what their tribe members have said, 2 of them are geniuses, and 1 is just average." Xiao Huahua frowned and began to dig into her memory. "I've heard my father mention before that Song Dingtian, the eldest son of Song Dao, broke through to the super first class level 3 years ago. I'm not sure now. He may have reached the peak of the super first class level, but it's unlikely that he will become a great wizard. If it were so easy for a great wizard to break through, they would have been everywhere and worthless long ago. His second son, Song Yuanshan, is a very ordinary one. He has mediocre abilities and has never gained much fame. If it weren't for his father being the great wizard Song, no one would have paid attention to him. The youngest, Song Sheng, is also quite powerful. I heard some time ago that he seems to have broken through to the first class level. He is about your age." "So you understood." This meant that Song Dingtian's strength was, at best, hovering at the peak of the super first-rate realm. He wasn't a great wizard, and even reaching half-step great wizard status wasn't a big deal. He'd consumed so many stamina potions over the past few days that he had a clear understanding of the speed of his strength improvement. Even the super stamina potion he'd acquired earlier had only slightly impacted his progress. The sheer amount of shamanic power required to advance to the great wizard level was immense. Moreover, after breaking through to the super first-class level, the side effects of the super physical strength potion also disappeared, which was beyond Su Yu's expectations. 2 months, a top-notch opponent, and an unquantifiable number of warriors. Given their current strength, a 50-50 war was unlikely, but after 2 months, the outcome was uncertain. Su Yu had confidence in the witches, and even more confidence in herself. If they were afraid before the battle, there would be no need to fight at all. Su Yu was in a good mood after receiving good news. The general direction of the tribe's development did not need to be changed. As long as everything went smoothly, the future would be promising. In a short time, many witches and tribesmen from the Sijiao camp arrived. Some women were already banging around the bathtub, their eyes shining. It was the first time they had seen a wooden vessel of this shape and capacity. They couldn't imagine that this thing could be used for bathing. "Let me go. My hide is about to be torn." "Woo, don't eat me." At that moment, Yaxiang suddenly appeared in her field of vision. Her long, wavy red hair was tied back with a thin string, and a bone knife and frying pan hung from her slender waist. Her animal skin skirt tightly wrapped around her hips, making her look tight and perky, full of movement. At this moment, she held a little cute thing in each hand and walked toward Su Yu. The tribesmen were attracted by the 2 delicate and clear voices and turned their eyes over. That was a child about 10 years old. No, the child is indeed a child, but he is not a human. One has a red face and horns on his forehead, while the other has a drooping tail and pointed, furry ears. What's going on? Su Yu was puzzled. He knew one of them, and he had only met the other one a few days ago. It was Baihua from the Ghost Tribe and the Orc Child. Both were grabbed by the back of their fur coats by Yaxiang and pulled over like chickens. After seeing Su Yu, Baihua seemed to have found a relative. He immediately kicked his arms and legs and called for help. "Su Yu, brother, quickly get your woman to let me down. She's grabbing me, and it hurts." Little White Flower's eyes rolled around, and she changed her words very quickly. The last time they exchanged names in the trading tribe, the little girl actually still remembered them. Baihua shouted, kicking the dejected and dispirited little orc girl beside her with her calf, and whispered, "Guagua, stop pretending to be a coward. Call me brother, and you'll be saved." "Huh? Which brother, Huahua?" The little orc girl instantly became alert. Her hair stood up, and her big watery eyes on her cute face began to search around like radar. "You're so stupid. My brother is naturally a man. What are you looking at those women doing over there?" Baihua cursed angrily, and Guagua then turned his big, shining eyes and immediately locked onto Su Yu. He had a fair face and handsome features, unlike the humans he had met before who were either tall and broad or skinny like monkeys. This humanoid man had a well-proportioned physique, strong limbs, and a strong sense of magical power. His expression was also gentle, not at all fierce, making people unconsciously want to get close to him. Beautiful human race. More handsome than my father. Guagua's father and mother died early, and she has only had her sister by her side since she was a child. She only calls the male orcs in the group who are older than her by their names, so the concept of brother is actually very abstract. But this time, I shouted it out naturally. "Brother, brother, please save me." Forehead. This action really made the witches laugh. Su Yu raised her eyebrows and thought that these 2 little girls had a strong desire to survive. "How did you catch them? If I guess correctly, these 2 should be on the other side of the mountain. How could they have discovered my camp?" However, one of them was Baihua, and Su Yu was relieved. This little girl was quirky and seemed to be good at tracking and stealth. Yaxiang came closer and threw them all out. She clapped her hands and said, "I found them under the thorn fence outside. They're small and seem to be able to squeeze through the gaps. I happened to see them." Both of the little guys fell on their butts, rubbed their butts, and immediately jumped up, as if they were pardoned, and hid behind Su Yu with a click. "Brother Su Yu, your woman bullied me." "Brother, you smell so good." "Hey, yeah, I told you he smells nice." Bawa was quite proud. Guagua's eyes widened, as if he had suddenly realized something. "Huahua, the human man you were talking about is him." "No. Do I look so righteous?" Suyu angrily used the grasp of immortality and lifted the two little guys in front of her. Woo woo hua hua. You lied to me. Even calling me brother doesn't work. I'm going to be eaten. It's not like we haven't had anything to eat for days, so they won't eat you. Feeling that the orc girl called Gua Gua was sniffing, Suyu immediately let go of her hand, squatted down, and asked, "What's going on with you two? Why are you in my camp? What are you doing?" "Pa." Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Before Suyu finished her question, Gua Gua's bulging chest deflated and a bright red apple rolled down. This. It's like admitting guilt without being asked. Chapter 81 by Wa and Gua Gua 2. Suyu had previously wondered how this little orc girl could develop so well. Her breasts already peaked before she was even 10 years old. "What about you?" Suyu looked at Bai Hua. His face was red, and it was hard to tell whether he was embarrassed or not. His eyes were blinking and tilted upwards at a 45-degree angle. "I didn't eat it. Is it sweet?" "Suyu ismaid." "Sweet. Wipe the saliva from your mouth." "Oh." So he came to steal the apples and ate them, but Liuli didn't notice? Maybe he was busy taking care of the peppers and cabbages, so he took advantage of the opportunity. Suyu rolled her eyes and said to Liuli, who was not far away, "Liuli, bring a few more apples over." Yashan stood by without saying a word. Everything Suyu did was considered by him, so she would not ask about it. The apples were brought over, and Suyu stuffed two into each of them, confusing the two little girls. "Want to give us some food? You really won't eat me?" "No, you're so thin. What's good to eat?" Suyu smiled and asked, "How many days have you not eaten?" Baiwa said nothing, but Guagua nodded honestly and said, "It's been 3 days. My sister and Huahua's father have been fighting, and all the wild animals in the forest have been scared away. They are indeed two young and foolish people. They all want to outlast each other. Baiwa and Guagua are obviously different. Baiwa is clever and quirky, while Guagua is a little silly." Suyu's eyes rolled, and she suddenly asked, "Are apples delicious?" "It's delicious, sweet, and juicy. I've never eaten such a delicious fruit." Guagua's saliva started to flow again. Suyu nodded, her expression suddenly solemn. "If you eat my food, you are mine. No, you have to join my tribe. My food and fruits are only distributed to my tribe members. Remove the firewood from under the cauldron." The last time she spied, Suyu had roughly counted the number of ghost men and beast men. There were about 20 beast men adults and 9 young children. If they could trick these 9 children into coming, their Ronin group would be doomed. Reproduction among the outer humans was difficult, perhaps due to genetic factors, making it difficult to conceive. Therefore, they valued their children highly. This trick is quite despicable, but it is practical. Moreover, the joining of the orcs will benefit themselves. Guagua was stunned, frozen by the sudden news. The apple in her hand fell to the ground, but the next second she instinctively squatted down and picked it up again. She looked at the delicious fruit, then at Suyu, and finally shook her little head worriedly and said, "My sister will be angry and beat you. There is a Ronin group that wanted us to join before, but my sister beat them away." Suyu grinned. "It's okay, your sister can't beat me." "Oh, then you just go and defeat my sister. My sister said that whoever defeats her can become the leader of the group." Guagua sold out his sister without hesitation. Suyu certainly considered this approach, but honestly, it was a bit risky, as this rule was set by the orcs and only applied to them, not to mention that they hated humans. Even if they were to be captured by force, few would actually serve the tribe sincerely, and gaining favor from them would be impossible. If he can't gain favorability, the meaning of taking it back is 90% smaller. If he still can't be loyal, then even the remaining 10% is gone. That's why Suyu gave up the method of suppressing by force. If they tricked the children over, at least they would have a good impression of Suyu. Then they would be worried that their tribesmen would not obey them. Suyu touched Guagua's ears. It must be said that the ears of the girl with animal ears felt very comfortable to touch. Guagua did not resist and let Suyu stroke it. "What if I hurt your sister?" Suyu asked. Guagua panicked and shook his head. "I don't want my sister to get hurt, brother. Please don't hit my sister." Suyu rubbed Guagua's head and said, "You and Baiwa go back first. You can share the fruits with your friends, but you are not allowed to steal them again. These are the foods I prepared for my own people. If you want to eat them, you have to join us." Guagua hummed, but Baiwa didn't move. She looked at Suyu with her small eyes and suddenly said, "Suyu, why don't you ask me if I'm willing to join? Can you leave your father?" Suyu glanced at Baihua. Although he had only seen her a few times, and Baihua was naughty and unrestrained, he could see that Baihua liked her father very much. He just had this idea on impulse, to fool this silly Guagua. He didn't care much about success or failure at the moment. I want to join. Baihua lowered her head in frustration, but father hates humans. It's great if you want to join. Better than Guagua. Su Yu was happy. Go back first, I won't make a fuss this time. He gave Yaxiang a look, and Yaxiang grabbed each of them and dragged them out. The two little children were holding a few apples, and their figures looked small and lonely in the dusk. Huahua, do you want to join them? Yes, I've observed that Su Yu is very powerful, more powerful than many people I've met, and I don't hate the smell of him. I think so too. He smells nice. Woohoo, I'm hungry again. Are you a pig or a cat? You get hungry so easily. Baihua had just finished cursing when her stomach started to growl. The two little girls looked at each other for a few seconds, then started giggling. After some fighting, they crossed the mountains and forests and returned to their respective camps. After the incident, Su Yu finally had Winnie begin distributing bathtubs and soap. Of course, not everyone got one. The quantity simply wasn't enough. So, Su Yu suggested that several women share one, and the same thing with the soap. Without Winnie's special status, the remaining 19 would be enough to meet the demand. Mun? Sorry, just go to the well and wash it with your hands. Of course, Su Yu didn't need to take an open-air bath. Even if he didn't have the status of a great wizard, the two sisters Yaxiang and Kiki Luolin were enough to get one. After distributing the bathtubs, the apples were next. The tribesmen looked eagerly at them, eager to use their bathtubs to collect the apples they had received. The tree had grown rapidly overnight, reaching over 300 apples. Su Yu had no means of storing them, so she simply distributed them. About 3 per person. After all, it wasn't enough food to keep them warm, so a few less wasn't a problem. By the way, it's best to eat the apples in the next few days. Otherwise, they will not be sweet anymore. The moisture will also be lost, and they will become dry and shriveled. Some of the priestesses who wanted to store the items for a long time immediately became discouraged. However, when they thought that they might be able to distribute them in the future, they felt less upset. System. I am here. How often does an apple tree bear fruit? Ding. Since this is your first planting, the system has awarded you an overspeed result. The system will return to normal next time in a month. That is, it bears fruit once a month. If this happened on Blue Star, I could open a fruit shop. Chapter 82. Next, Su Yu led the tribe to the well and demonstrated the technique of drawing water. Even after seeing it with their own eyes, many tribesmen still couldn't believe that a cave could produce cleaner water. They looked at each other in bewilderment, as if they had witnessed a miracle. Which Su? Is this water drinkable? Just now, Su Dao said that you can take a bath and drink it. So, do we never have to run out to get water again? I still like to go to the lake to get it. Sometimes I can even pick up fish. Stupid. Great, which Su has already taught everyone how to catch fish. You only catch one in 6 months. Aren't you afraid of starving to death? The priestesses were chattering and making a lot of noise. Su Yu couldn't help but waved her hand, quieting everyone down, and said, We still need to get water. The amount of water in the well is not enough for all the tribesmen. We can dig a few more in the future, and you'll have less trouble. After finishing everything, Su Yu handed the matter of the clan crest to Winnie and returned to the big house excitedly. He hadn't taken a proper bath in his life for several days. One time, he couldn't help himself and found a relatively clean pool to wash. Unexpectedly, his skin couldn't take it that night and started itching, which made Su Yu very uncomfortable. After that, he mostly used his magic to cleanse the dirt from his body, but the feeling was far different from washing it with his own hands. How can the refreshing feeling of drinking salty soda be the same as that of eating an old popsicle? Now that the problem of taking a bath was solved, Su Yu was a little impatient. When I returned to the big house, I didn't see Kokoro. Where's Kokoro? Su Yu asked in surprise. Lin called me over. Something might have happened. I won't be back for a while. Yaxiang placed the bathtub in the middle of the room, then picked up the large bamboo tube for filling water and prepared to go out to fetch water. AKA, let me do it. Su Yu took the bamboo tube without thinking and smiled. Just stay in the room and prepare the clothes you need to change into. Okay. A bad-looking smile. Yaxiang had been following Su Yu for so long that she had already figured out some things. She folded the translucent silk dress inside a new linen bra. She took it out to look at it, then put it away, then took it out again, over and over again. After a long deliberation, she finally gave up. Wearing this dress felt like being naked, and it wasn't suitable for hunting. She didn't like the sight of other men besides Su Yu. But Su Yu seemed to like it very much. Winnie often told herself privately that Suyu always sneaked a peek at her when she was wearing underwear. Yaxiang started to feel conflicted again. Behind him, Suyu came and went as fast as the wind. I guess in the stories on Blue Star, none of the monks who went down the mountain to fetch water worked as hard as he did. Originally, people had to wait in line to fetch water, but when the tribesmen saw that Suyu was in a hurry, they immediately gave up their seats. Oh no, Suyu likes her people more and more. Su Dao is in such a hurry. Have you not taken a bath for a long time? Maybe. I've never seen Su Dao taking a bath. Neither have I. But there's no strange smell on Su Dao's body. He smells very good. Nonsense. It clearly has a smell like fish. You're talking nonsense. Have you ever smelled it? Hey. He hesitated. No, when did it happen? I don't know how many times I've come here to fetch water, but Suyu always feels that the way the tribesmen look at me has become strange. Is it that I have suddenly become shorter, or that you have grown taller? Why has your vision started to deteriorate? Finally, I finished drawing a large basin of well water. Although I was strong and didn't care, the amount of exercise I did was the same. I ran back and forth 10 times. My forehead was sweating, my face was red, my neck was thick. So why don't I just fill the bathtub at the well? When people are excited, it's easy to become complacent. Yixiang, the water is ready. Suyu stood at attention and reported. Yaxiang took a look and finally came over with a tiger fur skirt and a new cotton and linen bra. Why draw so much water? Half of it will do the job. Yaxiang frowned as she glanced at the water that was about to overflow the tub. Normally, even if Shayli used her magical powers to create a water source, it would only produce a third of the amount she had in front of her, and that would only allow her to bathe for a short while. This seemed like she was being lavish beyond measure. Will the tribesmen not be enough? It's enough. Suyu rub her hands. Tomorrow I'll ask Lee to dig a few more wells. I guarantee it will be enough. Poor little bee. He hasn't even started washing, and several more things have been added to his schedule. Yeah. Yaxiang finally nodded in relief, then suddenly looked up and asked, Do you want to wash first? Suyu was stunned for a moment, her expectations dashed. After a long while, she said, Then you go first. I'll wait. Well, okay. Yaxiang lowered her head and suddenly realized why Suyu was so attentive at the beginning. Chapter 83 My son has the ability to become an emperor. Suyu suddenly remembered something, and she came over with a smile, leaning over the edge of the bathtub, and said, Yaxiang, try using your fire magic power to heat the water. Why do you want to boil it? Yaxiang stretched out her long, powerful arms and gently began to wipe. People in this world rarely bathe, let alone hot ones. Boiling water was a hassle in itself. However, for Yaxiang, who possessed the power of fire magic, this was no problem at all. It's more comfortable to take a bath after the water is heated. We all take hot baths over there. So you explain. Okay, I'll try. Yaxiang is now very skilled in controlling the fire magic power. With a thought, the surging fire element wakes up from its slumber and begins to swim in Yaxiang's blood and skin like a fish. Flames billow. Hot air hits her face, and bubbles begin to appear in the cool well water in a short while. I'll tell you when the temperature is high enough. Suyu smiled and put her hand into the water to feel the temperature. Good. Yaxiang nodded, and then carefully adjusted the release of her magic power. She didn't completely retract her magic power until she heard Suyu's reminder. The water, at 40 degrees Celsius, wasn't too hot or too cold, perfect for a bath. The steam was rising, and Yaxiang's body was shrouded in the mist, like a fairy bathing in the forest. Her fiery red hair floated in the water, its vibrant color radiating everything. A few more rose and jasmine petals would have been even more enchanting. A few minutes passed in silence. How do you feel? Suyu suddenly asked. It's very good and comfortable. It's my first time taking a bath with boiled water. I just feel a little sore and weak. My head feels empty, and I can't open my eyes. Hi. It's just a comfortable bath. I want to sleep. It's okay. This is a normal reaction. You will like this feeling in the future. Suyu smiled and took the soap next to her. This is for use in the shower. The comfort of taking her first hot bath made the tired woman fall asleep unknowingly. The next morning, Kokoro came back, rubbing her sleepy eyes. It turned out that Lin asked me to try on new clothes last night, but I didn't expect to fall asleep while playing. Yaxiang disappeared from the quilt. She was probably busy hunting. Now that they can raise wild animals, their hunting tasks will be reduced after some time. Today is the last day for Si Jiao and his team to move stones and wood, and we also have to prepare the next construction plan for them. Naturally, we also need to start preparing materials for the holiday home on the apple tree. Everyone has their own mission, including Kokoro. Don't forget to feed the pheasants and goats. Suyu said, "Oh, I'll go find Wolf 1 and Wolf 2. Suyu was stunned. Big Wolf, Second Wolf, what the hell? It's those two little wolves, I named them, Kokoro said proudly. Well, it's a real name, as long as you're happy. Suyu pinched Kokoro's face again before leaving the house. Kiki Luo jumped happily twice, picked out a few small pieces of dried meat from the wooden box in the main room, and murmured, Langda and Lang Air look like they're good eaters, but let's not keep them. I'm saving these for Brother Suyu. The Crescent Moon Tribe's territory. Song-style clan camp. The great wizard Song Heihu was eating the venison and fish that his tribe had just hunted. The women served him on both sides, helping him to remove the fish bones and cut the lean meat into small pieces from the venison bones with a bone knife. The serving plate was made of translucent stone. The meat and fish were placed separately, then sprinkled with fine salt and topped with a few sweet small fruits, and then respectfully handed to Song Heihu. On the other side of the dining table was his eldest son, the tall and broad Song Dingtian. Only a month and a half remained until the upcoming tribal meeting between the Sky Beast tribe and the Crescent Moon tribe. This contest is a test. Once an alliance is reached, the position of tribal leader will change. However, who will ultimately hold the final say remains uncertain. In terms of the number of great shamans, both tribes had the same number of 4. However, the Sky Beast tribe had more top-tier warriors. It's just a clan contest, so it's naturally impossible to use the Great Witch to take action. Therefore, top-notch warriors are the main force in this contest, which is not ideal for the Crescent Moon tribe. But Song Heihu was not in a hurry at all, because he knew very well that his son was invincible among his peers. Chapter 84, Taming the Beast 1. Now at the age of 29, he had already reached the pinnacle of the superclass, and the day of becoming a half-step great wizard was not far off. He was the pride of his Song family, far superior to that useless second son. You mean, Han Laogui's daughter is already a first-class warrior? Song Heihu was slightly taken aback. Logically speaking, it was extremely difficult for a witch to achieve the second awakening. Without special means, it would be a near-death experience. Therefore, their witch power would be infinitely suppressed, and the possibility of their strength breaking through the second level was extremely low, like walking up a mountain in reverse. Haha, that's quite interesting. A witch with first-rate abilities? A strange color flashed in Song Heihu's eyes, and he suddenly said, "Leave her to me when the time comes. I'll be able to use her." Song Dingtian was slightly stunned, but without looking up, he asked in a low voice, "Father, do you mean to bring him back here directly?" "Well, after you capture them, bring them to me." Song Heihu's eyes moved. All the witches whose magic power reaches the second rate should also be brought back. Also, after the tribal meeting is over, leave immediately. Do you know the location of their camp? Although Song Dingtian was puzzled, he didn't dare to ask too deeply. His father always had his reasons for what he did, and he had no habit of explaining things to others. "We have traces. Based on the information our tribe members gave us last time, we sent people to search the forest and found signs of their activities in the deepest part." Song Heihu raised his eyebrows. "You haven't been discovered?" "No. The tribesmen saw a hunting party composed of women and hid themselves. Later, they saw the fireworks from their camp and returned without going any further." "Okay." Song Heihu nodded. "There's no need to send more people over for now, so as not to alarm them and force them to move the camp again. When the time comes, you will select 1,000 people to go over. I don't want any mistakes to happen again this time." Song Dingtian was stunned and looked up at Song Heihu. "Father, isn't 1,000 people too many?" The clan leaders sighed. "A lot." Song Heihu raised his eyebrows. "The clan meeting is over, and the alliance will have a lot of things to do. He won't have the time to take care of us. So how many people do you think is appropriate to take with you?" 2,000. This time Song Heihu was stunned. For the first time, he felt that something had changed about his son. "A small tribe, are you afraid?" Song Dingtian shook his head. "They kill my brother. I want them to die in despair, leaving no one alive." Song Heihu was silent for a long time, but did not refuse. After a long time, he pointed at the table with his finger. "Okay, then, I'll leave first." Song Dingtian retreated, but Song Heihu's face darkened. He waved his hand gently and said to the woman beside him, go call Yuan Shan over. I have something to tell you. Yes, great witch Song. Song Heihu looked at the woman's back as she twisted her waist and left, and gradually closed his eyes, leaving the 2 plates of meat untouched. My son, what on earth do you want to do? Outsiders may not know, but Song Heihu knows very well that his 3 sons are not of the same mind at all. For my younger brother? Oh, maybe it's for something else. But Song Heihu did not hate such a son. He was ambitious and resourceful, and he even had a trick up his sleeve against his own father. After all, it is better than the second brother who has mediocre abilities but always dreams of inheriting the position of the great wizard. On the other hand, Suyu is still busy. Treehouse, equivalent to a vacation home. The materials needed were naturally better. The trees surrounding the camp had been mostly felled in the past few days, freeing up a large area. Suyu planned to set up the fish pond there, but there was no rush. With the work divided up, Suyu had fewer things to worry about. He first approached Li, who was rubbing mud, and told her about the task of digging 2 more wells, then hurriedly left the camp. Because it is a material for building a house, there are some requirements for the selection of trees. At least the load-bearing strength and toughness must be taken into consideration. The best quality trees are those that grow straight, have a high density, and possess high wood toughness. According to Blue Star standards, trees like cypress, elm, oak, fir, and camphor are suitable. Sephora japonica is also acceptable, as it has a strong texture and is also suitable for use as a building material. The problem is that many things in this world do not match those on Blue Planet. Even if they have the same origin and similar shapes, their names may not be the same. Around the campground, poplars dominated, with a few pines. But now, they were all reduced to wooden stumps, chopped down in unison by Si Jiao and his men. Judging by their growth rings, they were over 100 years old, treasures even on Blue Star. Suyu chose the direction leading to the mountains, searching along the way. Any decent-looking tree he found was chopped off at the root with a bone knife, and then laid flat on the ground. The efficiency of using this superior strength to fell trees was truly terrifying. There are no other tribes living on this side of the mountain, so you can leave the trees where they are and don't have to worry about them being taken away. You can just find free tribesmen to come and take them back when the time comes. Of course, so you came out this time for another purpose besides selecting materials for building the treehouse. That's animal taming. At present, I have only tamed wild beasts like wolves, and my strength has not yet reached the second-rate level, so I can't provide myself with the growth value of animal taming skills. This is a good skill and must be paid special attention to. Moreover, Suyu also plans to capture some mounts for the tribe members to take back. Living in the mountains without a decent beast mount is a bit of a lowlife. If it were Blue Planet, I'd be too embarrassed to post it on my social media. Back in the days of food scarcity, beasts were just food to fill their stomachs, never mind catching and riding them. Now that food, clothing, and housing are improving, it's only natural that we shouldn't lag behind in this regard. As for what you can tame, it depends on your luck. In the previous mountains, the strongest animals were only black bears, and lions and tigers were rarely seen. I hope it will be better in this area. Suyu chose a territory her tribe hadn't yet explored. It was about 20 miles from the water source valley, slanting eastward. The trees here looked ancient, their roots twisted and old, their branches and leaves withered and fallen. It was only the beginning of summer, but many of the giant trees were already bare like gourds like bare branches. The bushes were dry and yellow, and the weeds were blown all over the place by the autumn wind. Suyu glanced at the map radar and finally spotted a slightly larger red dot of light over 1,000 meters ahead of him. He hadn't used the advanced precision scanning function, mainly because the radar range was only 2,000 meters. He also had no way of confirming whether the names of these beasts were exactly the same as those on Blue Star. The advanced search provided by the system can only use the current world's cognition and object names, which is really annoying. In order to avoid alarming the wild beasts, Suyu walked lightly and restrained his breath and magic power. He was now a top-notch warrior, and the oppressive magic power that leaked out inadvertently could easily make the wild beasts aware of the coming crisis. This was also the difference between wild beasts and humans. They were born with a strong, sixth sense of danger. As we got closer, through the dead grass and old trees, we could see a small wilderness not far away, with 2 wild beasts lazily lying beside a huge rock to rest. Chapter 85, Taming the Beast 2. It is huge, comparable to an adult buffalo, with a well-proportioned and powerful body. Its light brown mane is lush and looks like static electricity. Its whole body is covered with brown hair. Its eyelids are slightly raised, and its bright eyes show the fatigue of just waking up, but it gives people a sense of invisible dominance. The one lying next to him yawned loudly. White air came out of his nose, and a low growl whimpered from his throat. Judging from their appearance, they should be two lions, but they are a little unexpectedly large. Forehead. Ding. Found a taming target, a wolf lion, second rate. Calculating magic power matching. Taming success rate 99%. Sensing Suyu's intention to tame the beast, the system promptly gave the probability of a successful match. After all, the disparity in strength was too great, practically 100%. The trees here were sparse, reduced to a small wilderness. A few hundred meters away was the intersection of another forest and mountain, with a relatively wide view and nowhere to escape. Suyu was confident in her own strength. Even if these two ran away now, they wouldn't be able to escape her five-finger mountain. Suyu took a step forward and waved his hand. Gurgle. Woo woo woo. The two wolf lions were stunned. They turned their heads at the same time, opened their eyelids completely, and stared with their eyes wide open. Roar. The roar was mixed with a hint of fierceness and fishy smell, and the male wolf lion's anger was obviously twice as high. The angry male wolf lion rushed in front of Suyu and pounced immediately. In this forest, it had never encountered a wild beast that dared to provoke it, even if the other party was a human. Suyu sneered and raised her palm. Grasp of the Undying. Grab it directly on the nose. The higher the success rate, the faster the magic power circulated, and the shorter the time from matching and fusion. In just 1 or 2 seconds, the male wolf lion's body went limp and fell to the ground with a loud bang. Who am I? Where am I? What am I going to do? The confused male wolf lion got up from the ground, looked up at Suyu, then roared and began to rub Suyu's thigh. Oh, right. I just rushed over here to hug the master's thighs. The female wolf lion was even more confused at this moment. What happened? After several roars, there was no response. The male wolf lion even turned around and snorted twice, indicating that he should stop talking. 10 seconds later. Ding. Tame 2 second-rate beasts, and the automatic growth of experience points for the beast taming skill will be enabled. Friendly reminder. Only the number of surviving beasts is counted. In other words, as long as they are alive, they can continue to provide growth experience points for your animal taming skills. Suyu then summoned the male wolf lion and rode on it. Go. Take me to find some good beasts. Suyu patted the male wolf lion's head, and the wolf lion immediately understood. It had lived in this area for several years and was very familiar with the beasts around it. The master wanted to find a powerful beast, but there were only a few that could fight him on equal terms. However, it did not leave in a hurry. Instead, it brought the female wolf lion and Suyu back to the boulder and roared a few times at the back of the boulder. The female wolf lion also turned its body and went behind the boulder. What's wrong? Suyu was puzzled. The male wolf lion followed with Suyu on his back. Behind the boulder, 3 little wolf lions were sleeping quietly like puppies. Looking at the female wolf lion's pleading eyes, Suyu smiled and said, Take it with you. Follow me back to the tribe later. Roar. The female wolf lion roared, nudged her sleeping children with her mouth, and picked up 2 of them. The male wolf lion also picked up 1 and walked a few steps. The 2 wolf lions looked back in the direction of the boulder several times, whimpered a few times, and then ran away quickly, leaving the place where they had lived for a long time. They must be reluctant to leave, but they also know very well that now that they have an owner, wherever the owner is their home. The 2 wolf lions traversed the jungle and the wilderness, covering 7 or 8 miles in the blink of an eye. One could sense their strong backs and sturdy, powerful limbs. As wild animals, they were far more formidable than those tamed in captivity. Their ferocity was undiminished by animal training, and they naturally showed no mercy when facing their enemies. However, for this world, the 2 wolf lions were still too weak. Fortunately, they could also level up their growth rate related to their own genetic magical power. Relatively speaking, the wolf lions were much more advanced than other beasts, which meant they had a promising future. While Suyu was thinking about this, the 2 wolf lions rushed into the depths of the dense forest. Suyu finally knew what the powerful beast in their eyes was. It was a porcupine covered in sharp quills, each one standing on end. Its limbs were as dark as stone pillars, hard and rough, and its quills were hard and bursting, like a porcupine that had been shot into a hornet's nest. Furthermore, the quills covered a large area, leaving only its abdomen relatively flat, like a hedgehog. Its physique is smaller than that of a wolf lion, but from its ferocious appearance, natural fighting genes, and sinister round eyes, one can tell that its fighting power is higher than that of a wolf lion, and it is more ferocious. Without its spikes, the wolf lion might have been able to fight it off, but with a porcupine this size, if it just kept steady and protected its belly, acting like a ninja pig, the wolf lion wouldn't have had a chance to bite it. It's no wonder the wolf lion saw it as an unbeatable foe. In fact, there is not much difference in the real magic power between the two. The difference in combat effectiveness is entirely due to the natural body growth factor. Hum. Chapter 86, Taming the Beast 3. When Suyu and the wolf lion entered the porcupine's territory, the porcupine had already sensed both unfamiliar and familiar auras. Suyu concealed her own magical aura, but the wolf lions were the exact opposite. Like those ancient blue star tyrants who relied on their superiors for power, they were eager to howl in front of their old rivals. Hum. Roar. When the enemies met, they were extremely jealous of each other. The wolves and lions cheered, and both sides started to exchange trash talk in the animal world. The porcupine was jumping around back and forth, with a look on its face. Are you two going to poke it with a needle? No, you're not going to poke it with a needle. I stabbed it a while ago, and it was running all over the floor. Have you forgotten it now? Hum. Roar. The shouting intensified, and the trash talk escalated into profanity. So you felt a headache after hearing this. 10 seconds later. The three beasts fully demonstrated that we are a loving family. Done, call it day. Leave. Suyu patted the wolf lion and kicked the porcupine's waist. Where does all this drama come from? It must be said that the quills on the porcupine were really hard. They pricked Suyu's toes and caused her to feel pain. Even with the protection of witchcraft, it still felt like being bitten by ants. The porcupine made two hum sounds, blocking the way of the wolf and lion. It bent its front legs, lay down, and lowered its head, indicating, "Master, please take a seat." Suyu raised her eyebrows, coughed twice, and felt a chill in her crotch, indicating, "Get out of here." Suyu had no interest in trying to sleep on a nail board for the time being, so she still rode on the wolf lion and continued to search for a stronger beast that could be tamed in the forest, but the results were not satisfactory. After searching for most of the day, it was found that there was only one moonlight leopard in this area that reached the second-rate level. Don't ask me why it's called moonlight leopard. That's just how the system defines it. The moonlight leopard's fur was smooth, glistening like hair oil. Its physique was twice the size of an average leopard, but its build was nimble. Its muscles possessed over 10 times the explosive power of an average leopard, and its speed was exceptionally swift. However, in the face of sheer power, it was completely useless. After less than 10 seconds of chasing, he completely became Suyu's rising star licking leopard. After searching for a long time, the harvest was almost nothing, all of which were some small and insignificant animals, but it was still good to catch and raise them. When I came to my senses, it was already past noon. The cloudless sky was a brilliant blue. The hot sunlight slanted in through the branches and leaves, forming long and thin curtains of light. The branches and leaves fluttered in the wind, and the yellow fallen leaves were floating in the sky. The forest was like a tree-lined path on a street corner, with winding paths leading to secluded places, which was quite beautiful. It wasn't a huge harvest, but overall, it was a good value. There were edibles, eggs, and pups. I'd have to expand the animal pen a bit when I got back. If that didn't work out, I'd have to consider building one around it like I did with the fish pond. Riding on a wolf lion and leading a group of beasts, Suyu looked up at the sky. Through the branches, he could see a falcon circling in the air. It was a pity that he couldn't fly. The falcon just wandered around for a while and then flew away. Go back. Suyu touched her stomach and patted the wolf lion's head gently. She felt a little hungry. The wolf lion understood immediately, growling and sprinting forward. The tamed beasts had no desire to flee, each swiftly pursuing. The moonlight leopard sprinted to the right, like a vigilant spy observing its surroundings. Quietly, buzz. Suyu felt something was wrong. It was obvious that his vision had just been slightly shaken. Not only him, but the group of beasts also noticed something unusual and stopped from galloping. Suyu concentrated her mind and released her magic power, and everything in her field of vision became extremely clear. However, Even though she looked as far as the eye could see, she could not find anything. However, the changes have just begun. Then there was another slight tremor, as if the earth was shaking. The beasts instinctively gathered towards Suyu, their bodies dominated by fear. The moonlight leopard whimpered and stared at the empty space ahead. Buzz! The tremors came one after another, and the frequency intervals began to accelerate. However, neither the map radar nor the perception detected any abnormality. No, not here. Suyu immediately realized that the vibration was not happening around her. It should be some huge force hammering the earth, causing aftershocks. Could it be an earthquake? Suyu immediately shook her head. An earthquake couldn't be limited to such a small area. Since it affected this entire forest, it couldn't be far away. But the inability to pinpoint the source of the problem was like a thorn in her heart. Worried about her tribe being in danger, Suyu could only hurry back to the camp. The closer they got to the camp, the clearer and stronger the tremors became. This was definitely not a good sign. As if sensing its master's anxiety, the wolf lion exerted all its might, darting through the forest like a streak of brown flame. Finally, the camp came into view. A group of priestesses stood behind a massive wooden gate, their expressions tense and vigilant. Yaxiang, with her flaming hair, clutched a short sword and gathered the tribe's warriors at the gate. Wow, there are beasts. Sister Yaxiang, so many beasts. Yes, there are wolf lions and moonlight leopards. Why are there so many? Why are they together? Some of the witches spotted the raging wolf lions, followed closely by the porcupines and moonlight leopards. Their lips trembled with fear, and their words stuttered. It was also the first time they had seen such diverse beasts gather together, attacking the human race like a tidal wave. Don't panic. Take the children away. Take your weapons and guard the door with me. Yaxiang was also stunned, but very calm, and gave orders immediately. We want to join the battle, too, Elder Yaxiang. Si Jiao and the other men had just finished moving stone and wood and were planning to rest, but they hadn't expected something like this to happen. The violent tremors had made them restless, and they all rushed out with bone knives and spears. Now, part of the tribe, they naturally had to fight to protect their homeland. Okay, Yaxiang nodded. On the other side, Axu brought a dozen girls carrying bows and arrows, and stood on a huge rock more than one person high along the inside of the fence of the camp. They drew their bows and arrows and began to wait. There was a thorn fence around the camp, so Yaxiang was not worried. She just had to guard the gate, repel the beasts, and hold on until Suyu came back. However, when the wolf lion got closer, everyone discovered Suyu riding on the wolf lion. The tense atmosphere suddenly broke. The witches all breathed a sigh of relief. Although they didn't understand why Suyu was with the beast, they unconditionally believed that the crisis was resolved. Su Dao is back. So these beasts were brought back by Su Dao? But how can wild animals listen to humans? We used to just avoid the wolf lion and moonlight leopard. Who cares? It's good that Great Witch Su is powerful. Yaxiang's frown relaxed as she strode forward, her eyes gleaming with curiosity as she looked at the wolf lion riding on her. Have you tamed them? Chapter 87, Mountain Beast Attacks 1. The wolf lion held its head high, extremely arrogant, until Suyu slapped it on the forehead. This is your mistress. Woo. The wolf lion immediately wilted, stuck out its tongue, and wanted to lick it, but was immediately disdainful of Yaxiang and dodged away. Pa, just wag your tail. Why are you licking it? Suyu slapped me again and said, I haven't licked it enough yet. When will it be your turn? Seeing the petite figure of Kokoro among the shrine maidens, Suyu immediately waved, and Kokoro immediately ran over with her legs clacking. To be honest, she was still a little scared. After all, she was not as brave as Yaxiang. This is also your mistress. From now on, you'll be under her care. Do you understand? I don't know if these wild beasts can understand what I say, but with the help of animal training techniques, they can at least understand the general meaning of their master. The wild beast started to make a lot of noise around Kokoro, and the moonlight leopard came over and rubbed Kokoro's calf with its head. Brother Suyu, do I need to raise all these? Kokoro looked up and asked. Yes, I will ride them when I go out next time. Suyu Ismail. Kokoro's childish face showed an awkward expression. That's too much. This is much more than what Wolf 1 and Wolf 2 can eat. Suyu jumped off the wolf lion and touched Yaxiang's muscular waist, rolling her eyes in delight. Then he smacked his lips and came over to Kokoro, pulling at the baby fat on her face. We don't have to feed all of them. Let the older ones go out and find food on their own. Maybe they can bring some back. Oh. Brother Suyu, you are so awesome. Kokoro stretched out her little hand to pull Suyu's palm. She felt a little uncomfortable with her face being pinched, and she wanted to resist. Buzz! At this moment, the violent tremor that had been silent for a long time came again. This time, it was more violent and very clear. The birds and animals in the sky were startled and scattered, and even the dull roar of some wild beast could be heard. Suyu then looked in the direction of the sound and determined the direction of the movement. It's over there in the valley. I'll go check it out, Suyu said to Yaxiang. I'm going too. Yaxiang stepped forward. And me, I'll go take a look too, brother Suyu. Not far away, Li came trotting over. In fact, she had just seen the beast attacking and was ready to use her fists and feet, but she didn't expect it to be a misunderstanding. She felt extremely uncomfortable with the breath she had been holding in her heart and wanted to find a place to vent. The unknown road ahead is full of dangers, but Li is not afraid at all. She feels that it is time to verify the results of her training over the past few days. Okay, don't run around later, follow me. Suyu did not refuse. The tribesmen needed to grow up. They couldn't live under her wings forever. At least when she was not at the top of the world, they had to go through hardships. Of course, it is also because Yaxiang and Li's abilities are relatively mature and they are capable of fighting. Okay, brother Suyu, I'll listen to you. Li was very happy. Brother Suyu, come back soon. Kokoro was a little worried and hugged Suyu's waist and rubbed it. Well, go back and stay with Sister Lin. Suddenly, a mountain-like figure walked out of the camp. Xiao Hunyang's resonant voice came. Suyu, I will protect the camp. And us. Si Jiao and several leaders of the witches also stood up. Okay, I'll take them to check it out, and I'll come back if nothing happens. Suyu nodded. With Xiao Hunyang around, she felt a lot more at ease. As he spoke, the tremor struck him again. The leaves were shaken and fell down. Suyu took Yaxiang and Li and rode on the wolf, lion, and moonlight leopard respectively, and ran towards the valley. On the other side of the valley at this moment, the ghost tribe camp. It could no longer be called a camp, as the surrounding giant trees and bushes had been swept away. A vast expanse of clearing had been cleared from the dense jungle, leaving a swirling expanse of dirt, broken branches, and desolate ground. The ground had sunk under the weight of giant footprints, and some sections had even broken off and fallen. If the instigator was not still acting recklessly, some people would probably think that this was most likely a natural disaster. How could it be this? 2 of the affected Oni men were severely wounded, bloodied, and unconscious. The rest, all wounded to varying degrees, scattered and sought cover, led by their leader. It wasn't that they didn't want to escape, but they couldn't. The monster had gone mad, targeting any moving object, and with the wounded, it couldn't run fast. The only thing that reassured the chief was that the children were well protected in the chaos just now. He immediately asked the tribesmen to take them to the other side of the valley. Most of the Ghost Clan members were no longer able to run. After days of hunger and fighting with the orcs, they had already become weak in their limbs and mentally depressed. After being frightened like this, their legs became weak. If this crazy monster also chooses to go to the valley, they must interfere for the sake of the children, because the monster's speed is definitely much faster than the children. The leader of the Ghost Clan was called Red Wolf, the red-faced, burly man whom Suyu nicknamed Second Master. He stared blankly at the mad, giant figure before him, furiously attacking everything in front of him, revealing an expression of disbelief. He actually knew this monster. It can also be said that we had met once, but it completely became the biggest nightmare in my heart. 2 years ago, Red Wolf and his people passed through the chain of mountains, intending to find a forest to live in. However, after 3 days of searching for no water nearby, they unexpectedly discovered something that gave him a headache. Iron mine, a véritable iron ore mine. 30% of the rocks on the mountain, even the outermost rocks scattered on the ground, were high-quality iron ore. Red Wolf was troubled. This was undoubtedly a precious commodity, even several times more valuable than food. However, for their sparsely populated group of Ronin, this resource was a hot potato. Not to mention they lacked the ability to mine. Even if they occupied it, they lacked the smelting technology. If you take it to a trading tribe to exchange, there is a 100% chance that you will be targeted by the larger human forces. For a small group of Ronin to offer iron ore in exchange for supplies is like a big white rabbit running into a pack of wolves, wanting to die. Moreover, Iron ore was not as valuable as meat and water to them at the time. After days of traveling, their food supplies were running low, and they hadn't found any water. Red Wolf was extremely anxious. It would have been fine if they hadn't seen any iron ore, but they had to encounter this even more troublesome material. Red Wolf was about to burst into tears. Chapter 88. Mountain Beast Attack 2. Red Wolf didn't want to touch these things and planned to continue deep into the forest to search for water, but some of his tribesmen were reluctant to give up. Iron ore couldn't be exchanged at street vendors, but he could contact the White Dove tribe. They had promised to keep their employer's information confidential. However, the tribe member who raised this idea was rebuked by Red Wolf. You can never fathom the hearts of humans. They do keep information secret, but that's only with their own kind. As for the ghost people, who can guarantee fairness? Besides, merchants are all about profit. The White Pigeons are indeed a trading tribe, but aren't they also just ordinary human tribesmen who need to hunt, annex, and use resources to survive? Red Wolf preferred stability, not wanting to cause any unnecessary trouble. He simply wanted to live a good life with his people and his young daughter. If he ever encountered a large tribe of alien races in the future, he would join them without hesitation. But this hope is too slim. The reproduction of alien species is difficult, and their small number cannot be changed. Red Wolf and his people were planning to leave, but the tribesmen who disagreed with him insisted on going his own way. In a fit of rage, he rushed directly into the mountains. He had no intention of occupying the iron mine, but was reluctant to give up such a huge resource. Even if he could only take away a few pieces of iron, or he would feel better. Red Wolf and his tribesmen chased after him, and finally crossed the line and entered the inner side of the iron mine. There stood a massive cave entrance, tens of meters high. The Red Wolf, after only a single glance, was completely paralyzed. A massive, dark figure huddled at the entrance, its spiky tail forming a natural barrier, like a dam blocking the entrance. It seemed to sense an alien odor, whiffing white air from its nose as it slowly opened its eyelids. The tribesman who was rushing in the front was so scared that he almost peed his pants and collapsed to the ground. What kind of eye was that? Huge and eerily bright, like the sun in the sky, yet pitch black, more terrifying than the abyss. It's a mountain beast, and it was an adult mountain beast. Its head is like a mountain, and its body is covered with scales as thick as iron. There is a shallow crack on its forehead, which should be caused by being attacked by some ferocious beast when it was young. The mountain beast cast a gloomy glance at the tiny insect that had intruded into its territory, its breath rumbling like thunder, vibrating the eardrums of Red Wolf and the others. Baiwa, the daughter, was so frightened that her hands and feet turned cold. She hugged her father's thighs and buried her head deeply. Gurgle woo. There was only a soft whimper, barely even a roar, before a fierce, fishy wind blew over. Red Wolf and the others dared not move, their fur coats dripping with sweat, their foreheads already soaked with perspiration. His hand, gripping the bone knife, trembled, yet he exerted great effort to control his fingers, fearing that if he accidentally dropped the knife, the noise would upset the other party. Fortunately, the mountain beast did not move. It just glanced at them and closed its eyes again. In its eyes, such tiny things are like insects, not even enough to fill the gaps between its teeth. In other words, the Red Wolf should be happy that what they encountered was a mountain beast, because this monster's favorite food was not meat, but iron ore. After weighing the options between killing a few ants that accidentally intruded and continuing to enjoy sleep, the mountain beast finally gave up the former. Seeing the mountain beast close its eyes again, Red Wolf finally mustered up his courage and tremblingly helped the tribesman, who had collapsed on the ground in front of him, to his feet, and together they retreated. From then on, the tribesman never contradicted Red Wolf again and became his most loyal tribesman. This experience was not only Red Wolf's nightmare, but also the nightmare of all the ghost people. When they met again, Red Wolf recognized him immediately when he saw the crack on his forehead. But that's simply impossible. Mountain beasts love to eat iron ore, so they mostly live in the mountains and rarely go out. And the place I passed by 2 years ago is at least 10 days, over 100 miles, away from here. How could this beast have come so far from here? Furthermore, its pitch-black eyes had begun to turn white at the bottom, as if covered by a strange, pale layer of eyelids, swallowing up the light in them, reminiscent of the white eyes of a dead animal. Its scales were broken in many places, some even missing, stained with blood and dark green mucus, emitting a foul odor. Even the air it exhaled was filled with wisps of blue smoke, causing dizziness and chest tightness. In a crazy agitation, the poisonous blood mixture thrown out by the mountain beast dripped onto the trees and the ground. The branches, leaves, and trunks began to corrode and dry up visibly, and the ground made a sizzling sound and white smoke rose. Poison. It was considered a dreaded disease by the people of this era. Once infected, it was likely incurable and death awaited. Those with milder cases could rely on their physical fitness and magical powers to persevere. Cover your mouths and noses. Red Wolf shouted in a deep voice. This was the first time he had seen poison in the form of mist, but he immediately sensed something was wrong after inhaling it. His head felt dizzy and swollen, and if he didn't use his magical power to resist, he felt like he would collapse at any moment. The tribesmen followed suit, but due to hunger, fatigue, and the toxic gas they inhaled, some of those with weaker constitutions were overwhelmed and fainted. This made the situation even worse, as they could not escape at all, as Red Wolf would never abandon his own people. At this moment, a thin tribesman crouched down and slowly crept over from the bushes. Red Wolf was stunned when he saw him and asked anxiously, "Have you sent Baiwa and the children away?" The thin tribesman nodded. "I sent them to the other side of the mountain stream and let them escape to the other side." "Then why did you come back? Didn't I let you escape with me?" I won't leave." The skinny tribesman was the ghost who had nearly killed the entire tribe. After sending Baiwa and the other children away, he resolutely sneaked back. He had almost killed his tribesmen and still felt guilty, so he decided to stay today. The Red Wolf remained silent, hiding behind a huge rock and looking at the mountain beast that was still smashing and destroying things. At this moment, he could only pray that the monster would abandon the valley and move deeper into the forest. However, just because Red Wolf and the others dared not move does not mean that other groups would take the same approach. The Ghost and Orc camps were not far from each other, both near the valley's water source. The Orc camp was also shattered by boulders and trees flying from the air, sending wailing cries from the tribesmen. Compared to the Ghost, the Orcs suffered even more damage. Heavy objects flew from the air at random, leaving Meow and the others completely defenseless. Some tribesmen, struggling to protect their children, were left bloody and their bodies broken. It was a horrific sight. Meow was filled with grief and indignation. Seeing the beast already facing them, its massive body trembling, its steps stumbling, and as it tried to approach, it suddenly stumbled. This was their last chance, and Meow immediately ordered the tribe to flee, taking the children and the wounded. The forest couldn't stop the beast, but the valleys and the chain of peaks could hold it back for a while. Meow steeled his resolve and pointed in the direction. Enter the valley and pass between the two peaks. Dozens of small, moving figures rushed toward the valley as the mountain beast struggled to flip its body. Red Wolf's forehead darkened at the sight. He wanted to shout to stop Meow, but ultimately swallowed his words. Meow's tribe was even more seriously injured than theirs. They were simply trying to save themselves and choose the best escape route. But the problem is that the mountain beast will follow Meow and chase towards the valley, so Baiwa and others will be in danger. This stupid woman. Red Wolf scolded through gritted teeth. Chapter 89. Mountain Beast Attack 3. Chief, what should we do now? The Orcs will harm the young lady. The thin tribesman said worriedly. Disrupt it and lead it towards the forest. Red Wolf closed his eyes and hesitated for a long time, and finally his eyes became stern. For the sake of the children of the tribe, they must stand up. The tribesmen used their last bit of strength to attack using bone spears and stones. These things hit the mountain beast with almost no pain, but its body fell over and its eyes were positioned very low, so some stones hit its white pupils. Roar! The mountain beast noticed the tiny creatures attacking it, and its unconscious brain was left with only the instinct to fight and bite. This roar, laced with surging magical power, resounded like a sound wave throughout the world. Even the circling mutant giant eagle in the sky was shaken dizzy and fell to the ground. Red Wolf and the fleeing Meow and others immediately hugged their heads. Blood flowed from their ears, their eyes were bloodshot, and their chests were filled with blood and gas, making them want to vomit. Plop, plop, plop. Several tribesmen fell down in a disorderly manner. Red Wolf gritted his teeth and held on, his hands trembling so much that he could hardly hold the bone knife. The orcs on the other side were naturally no better off. The tribesmen instinctively tried to protect the children, but were themselves shaken to the ground, some even fainting. Blood streamed from their ears, mouths, and noses, and their heads ached like they were about to explode. Dudu, take the children and go first. Miao knew the current situation very well. If he took the children with him and ran away, none of them might survive. Among the tribe, only the strong Du still maintained good physical strength, so Miao immediately gave the order. Meow, what about you guys? Hurry up. Nothing must happen to the children. We'll catch up. Meow glared at Dudu with bloodshot eyes, and the sturdy girl nodded, picked up a few weak children, and took the others who could still run and rushed into the valley. Come on, follow me to stop it. We can't let it chase this way. At Meow's command, the tribesmen followed closely behind. Everyone knew that this move was dangerous, but no one retreated. The child was their hope for the alien race, and also their own family. They had lost the right to escape. Sister Meow, the ghost people are here too. I know. Meow was not dead. She had heard the Red Wolf coming out to disrupt the beast's movements just now. But both sides were in similar situations now. So who would expect help from the other? The fact that the Red Wolf stood up to disrupt the beast's movements was already a great courage. And this courage comes from the responsibility to protect children. Meow was not stupid. When he saw that there was no child among the tribesmen around Red Wolf, he knew that he had done the same thing as him. Attack the mountain beast's eyes. That's the only place we can inflict damage. Meow stared at the mountain beast, tens or even hundreds of times larger than herself, with only deep despair in her eyes. This was a monster that even top-tier warriors could hardly match. For a mere second or third-rate warrior like them, fighting it was tantamount to committing suicide. But sometimes, fate holds you by the throat, and you have no choice. Attack its eyes. The orcs shouted loudly and threw the bone spears in their hands. Some people gave up using bone knives and picked up scattered stones on the ground and smashed them hard at the eyes of the mountain beasts. The ghost tribe also carried out attacks like this. Their purpose was not to defeat the mountain beast, but to attract its attention and hatred. Even though the mountain beast was seriously injured, it was still invincible to them. Roar! The mountain beast had stood up, its body swaying. The whites in its eyes had darkened, covering a wider area. Its face, the most vulnerable part, had been attacked by the bone spear and stone and had also sustained minor injuries. There were scratches on its eyes, and a bloody, transparent liquid oozed out. It roared furiously to the sky, hammering the ground with its massive claws and sweeping its tail wildly. In reality, its field of vision had been devoured by the whiteness, its visible area gradually shrinking. Due to its limited vision, it lowered its head to see who was attacking it. It was precisely those tiny, humble insects, two separate groups. But this posture made it easier for the ghost people and orcs to attack. Stones kept falling, and the mountain beasts spewed green breath from their nostrils. They completely ignored the protection of their eyes, and their claws fell heavily. Hong Lang and the others only felt the overwhelming darkness coming upon them, and their bodies suddenly froze, and they closed their eyes. This claw directly caused a three-finger-shaped trench to sink into the ground. Fortunately, the ghost people happened to be alive in the gap between the fingers. The huge gap between life and death in an instant frightened Red Wolf and others to a state of numbness. But all this was not over yet. The mountain beast raised its deeply sunken claw, and the other claw came roaring from the other side like a torrent of mountain torrents. The soft mud on the ground was pushed, and a thick layer rose up, but it did not hinder its speed at all. Quick, jump down! This sweeping attack was unavoidable. Getting hit was essentially the end of the fight. Red Wolf, quick-witted, grabbed a nearby, terrified tribesman and jumped into the three-finger-deep pit. The tribesmen followed suit, their huge claws whizzing past their heads, and thick soil immediately filled the trench. Fortunately, the soil was soft and not compacted, so the movements of Red Wolf and others were not restricted. After digging for a while, they all crawled out covered in dust. Meanwhile, Meow and the others across from them all collapsed to the ground, their foreheads and soles of their feet icy, a chill running down their spines, as if they had just walked through the gates of hell. It turned out that as the mountain beast attacked the ghost people, its tail lashed out, and meow, and the others immediately fell flat on their faces. The spiky tail flew almost right over their heads, chilling them to the bone. Forget the tail. Just the thorns alone would have scratched their skin. Still frightened, he lay there for a long time before he stretched out his arms and legs, arched his body, and climbed up. After just one encounter, the orcs and ghosts felt they could no longer hold on. Facing adult mountain beasts, their strength was too small, and they had no courage to even think of resisting. "Run! Follow me!" Almost at the same time, meow and Red Wolf shouted. They quickly fled into the depths of the forest. After all, this was everyone's original goal. Lead the beasts away from the valley and into the forest. Only in this way can my children escape safely and have hope of survival. The two groups met, and neither side said a word. They all used all their strength, trying to circulate their magic power to fill their legs with strength. The orcs even returned to their instincts, lying on their hands and knees, and began to run wildly. Chapter 90, Mountain Beast Attack 4. Realizing its target was desperately trying to escape, the mountain beast had no intention of letting them go. With a roar, it charged forward. The distance the orcs and ghosts had fled was only 2 or 3 steps away. If the mountain beast hadn't been severely injured and confused, the two Ronin groups wouldn't have even had this chance. The beast could no longer control its strength, and its huge feet, like stone pillars, slammed into the ground. The huge and dull force caused the ground to sink, followed by a shaking like the collapse of the sky and the earth. The rocks and giant trees were trampled into the ground. The roar was accompanied by a huge poisonous storm that blew away all the large branches and leaves in the forest. The air was filled with a fishy and unpleasant smell. Red Wolf, meow, and others only felt a sharp and burning pain on their backs. Their scalps were numb as if they were roasted by fire, and their ears were buzzing. They only knew to run away, until a vicious wind came, carrying muddy roots, and huge trees and rocks flying in the air suddenly crashed down, carving a huge gully in the forest ahead. Several members of the orc and ghost tribes who were running at the edge were also blown away by the turbulent flow of trees and rocks, falling to the ground and spitting blood. The road is blocked. Although the blockade was not that tight, any moment that hindered their progress was enough to be fatal. The mountain beast roared, its huge paws covering the sky and the sun, following closely behind like a judgment. The air seemed to be squeezed out, and the people in the shadows even found it difficult to breathe. A moment of daze, and death is approaching. It's over. Dead. Red Wolf and meow bit their lips, their extreme despair turning into relief, until the children's tender cries broke through the air. "Father! Sister!" A blazing fireball shone into the mountain beast's eyes. Boom! The flames struck, and the beast felt a burning pain in its eyes, but this pain pales in comparison to the injuries to its body. The force of the impact blasted its head open, and the beast froze briefly before continuing its powerful footfall. Why are they back? Run away! Meow and Red Wolf were stunned. They and their tribesmen had fought tooth and nail to pave a path for them to survive, only to find they were forced to retreat. Beside them, a human woman with fiery red hair rode a moonlight leopard at top speed. Why are you riding a moonlight leopard? Isn't that a very ferocious beast? Even second-rate warriors wouldn't dare to hunt it easily. How could it obey the orders of a human? Was a fireball just now shot by that woman? Is she here to save herself? Questions echoed in their minds, and they couldn't figure out the meaning of this human woman's actions no matter how hard they tried. They only knew that this human woman was courting death. This is a mountain beast. What use can you, a small human like you, come here alone? What's even more hateful is that this woman brought her own child with her. That is the hope of their ghost people and beast people. The moonlight leopard was extremely fast. With just a thought, it had already rushed forward with the human woman. Humans, take our children away. You can't save us. However, Yaxiang ignored them. Her eyes were solemn and deep, and she snorted with her delicate nose. Not impressed. Go from aside. Upon hearing this, the moonlight leopard braked suddenly, twisted its flexible body quickly, and turned gracefully when it was about to enter the range of the mountain beasts. Yaxiang aimed at the soles of the mountain beast's feet and stretched out her 5 fingers again. Try again. Get down. A huge fireball suddenly appeared in the air and broke through the air. She's a witch. Red Wolf and a meow understood what was happening and dared not delay any longer. When the tribesmen saw the flames coming, they all squatted down with their heads in their hands. Bang! A deux d'explosion sounded. Green smoke rose up and brilliant flames shone above the heads of Hong Lang and others. But it doesn't work. Red Wolf and a Meow were stunned again when they saw the paw, and then it continued to fall, and they had already given up. They were in the center of the sole of the foot, and it was impossible for them all to run away. Although this woman wanted to rescue them very much, she was too weak. Humans, take our children and leave. Please treat them well. The Moonlight Leopard leaped up, turned around, and stopped. Only then did Yaxiang frown and shouted while biting her lip unwillingly. Sujue, here I am. Su Yu, who had been watching the battle, responded. The voice rang in the ears of Red Wolf and a Meow. They turned their heads, almost subconsciously, too shocked to speak. When did one more person appear in my crowd? He was wearing a linen top and culottes, with a fair and delicate face and a much thinner build than themselves. He was different from the humans they usually saw. At first glance, he was a pampered young master of a tribe. How'd he get here? No, it should be what is he going to do? In a moment, the foot landed. Suyu concentrated his mind and gathered his energy, pouring his magic power into one place. The Qilin arm on his right hand enhanced his fighting skills, and he threw a serious punch straight forward. A loud bang sound exploded in my ears. Red Wolf and Meow were both terrified. What did they see? A seemingly weak boy with just one punch managed to withstand the beast's trampling. Not only that, he even caused the beast to recoil, causing its center of gravity to lose its balance, and it fell back. I'm not dreaming. Gulp. In the dead silence of the small space, even the sound of swallowing saliva seemed so clear. He is a top-notch warrior. Meow's eyes gleamed. Unlike Red Wolf, the orcs worshipped powerful warriors, but only within their own tribe. But this ancient rule had been overshadowed by the life-saving grace. At least at this moment, she felt that this orc man was truly great and righteous. Click, click, boom. The ground cracked under Su Yu's feet, and the power of the mountain beast he had endured erupted at this moment. Why don't you leave now? Su Yu glanced at the stunned crowd unhappily and shouted loudly. Okay. Thank you. Compared to the stubborn and conservative Red Wolf, Meow was more relaxed and expressed his gratitude directly. Go stay over there. Su Yu pointed out the direction, which was where Ahua, Guagua, and other children were staying. Su Yu saw that the injured people were unable to move, so she could only help grab a few and evacuate quickly. Ahua, Guagua, Red Wolf, and a Meow ran to the children. The joy of surviving the disaster and reuniting with their children instantly overwhelmed everything. Instead of blaming them, they hugged the two children tightly in their arms. Father, I'm glad you're all right. Sister, are you hurt? The two little girls had tears in their eyes and started crying. Suyu didn't interrupt. Since Hong Lang and the others were fine, he had fulfilled his promise to Baiwa and Guagua. As he stepped out, he heard Yaxiang's unwilling but firm voice. Suyu, I want to try again. Good. Suyu looked at Yaxiang's unyielding spirit, smiled slightly, and nodded. However, Suyu's actions puzzled Hong Lang. Aren't you going to help her? Well, she is one of your people, right? Meow also asked Suyu. Yes, she is still my woman. She will die. It's a mountain beast. Red Wolf on the side reminded with some guilt that no matter what, the woman was saving them just now. Suyu shook her head. No, I will watch. The two fell silent, not quite understanding what this man was trying to do. In fact, it was after Su Yu and the other two discovered the mountain beast that Yaxiang and Li proposed it. They wanted to try to block the mountain beast's attack and feel the results of their recent training. Su Yu agreed after a little thought, because this was indeed a good practical test for the two of them. Of course, the most important thing is that he has seen that the mountain beast has been seriously injured. Its strength is only 1/10 of what it was now, and it cannot pose much of a threat. Moreover, the system gave a prompt the first time I saw it. Ding! Found a taming target, a mountain beast, top tier in strength. Calculating magic power matching. Taming success rate 0%. Chapter 91. Mountain Beast Attack 5. System, what's going on? Strength at the same level, no matter how outrageous, can never be 0. So you naturally sensed something was wrong. Hint. The mountain beast has suffered irreversible fatal injuries. Its bloodline has been invaded by a massive amount of toxins, and its body functions are gradually failing. Its main body will die in an indeterminate amount of time, so matching is unsuccessful. Death has become a fait accompli for the beast, and the matching success rate will be automatically cleared. Suyu understood, and since the mountain beast's strength had weakened a lot at this time, he felt a little relieved to let Yaxiong and Li use it to train. In fact, when Suyu saw the huge mountain beast for the first time, she was still a little scared. This thing looked like the fictional Godzilla from Blue Star, extremely ferocious. Fear is a human psychological instinct, and there is nothing to be ashamed of. Although they didn't understand what Suyu wanted to do, Hong Lang and Miao still stared at Yaxiong, who was fighting in the front, and the girl who suddenly jumped out from the other side. These two women will die because of the man's underestimation of his enemy. Both of them couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh in their hearts. On the battlefield, Yaxiong rode the Moonlight Leopard and attacked again. She gently pressed her arm on the Moonlight Leopard's spine and jumped into the air. Her agile body flashed with red light and blazing flames, like a flaming phoenix. This was the embodiment of all her strength. She allowed the magical power of the fire element to wreak havoc in order to maximize her combat capability. Yaxiang's body fell directly on the feet of the mountain beast. As a first-class warrior, she had a huge strength of 700 or 800 kilograms, and her jumping ability was already amazing. She grabbed the remaining scales on the mountain beast and climbed up the ladder like a martial arts master climbing a rock. Sister Yaxiang, let me help you. Li sat on the female wolf lion, her brows knitted into knots. Although she wanted to hone her skills, she had never imagined that her first trial in life would be against a mountain beast. Would her immature earthen coffin be enough to bury a beast this size, as big as a mountain? If she could create a giant earthen coffin to trap a mountain beast, how could she still be considered a second-rate person? Combat skills need to correspond to the battlefield and one's own strength. Li thought about it and made a decision in an instant. Take me to the front now. Li patted the wolf lion's neck, and it bolted. The beast now had its back to Li, so she had to move to its front. Just as Red Wolf and the others had initially thought, their strength was too weak to inflict any substantial damage on the beast's thick armor and body. So its only weakness is its eyes. The wolf lion ran as fast as lightning, dodging and moving on the bumpy ground. When Li saw the profile of the beast, she immediately waved her arms. In an instant, the soil on the ground seemed to be attracted by some kind of suction and quickly solidified in the air. A bunch of sharp and narrow earth spikes were like soldiers on standby. They turned their guns and shot out at the command. Hey, the king's treasure. So you found it quite interesting and enjoyed it very much. Red Wolf, Miao, and the others were stunned. This was their first time seeing a witch fight. In their minds, witches were cursed women who killed men, hindered the reproduction of their race, and were despised even by humans themselves. Even the witches who could wield the magical power of harmony with the elements of heaven and earth had not been seen many times before. I didn't expect two of them to appear in front of me all of a sudden. Her whole body is burning with huge flames, and she can manipulate the soil to perform transformation attacks. Is this still the witch they are familiar with? Moreover, both women seemed to listen to the man next to them. The two foreign clan leaders couldn't help but look at Suyu. Could it be because of him that the witch had undergone such a huge change? The earth spikes, composed of magical power, were clearly much stronger than ordinary bone spears. As long as the magical power remained, they wouldn't break easily. The mountain beast's vision had been eroded by white, partially obscuring its vision. The earth spikes pierced upwards, making a series of puff, puff sounds as they actually penetrated. The nearly 1 meter long earthen thorn had penetrated the beast's eyeball for over 20 centimeters. While it couldn't penetrate completely, the effect was impressive. A transparent liquid, mingled with pus, gushed out like a broken water jar. However, the pain-sensory nerves in this area had largely been depleted. The beast merely sensed the foreign object and swiped its claws across its eye, shattering and churning the earthen thorn, leaving the wound even more horrific. Red and white matter emanated, a foul and fishy odor mixed with green venom, making the sight nauseating. The frenzied mountain beast gave up on Yaxiong, who was still climbing on its body, and slapped Li with its claws, making a whistling sound. What is this? A tooth. After a few leaps, Yaxiong, who had climbed to the mountain beast's shoulder, was suddenly stunned. She hadn't been able to see clearly from the distance, but now she realized that the white object protruding from the mountain beast's neck looked like a tooth from some beast. The tooth was so thick that it took 2 or 3 people to hug it. It was simply terrifying. What kind of beast must be so huge to grow such a sharp tooth? At the same time, Yaxiang also realized that the reason why the mountain beast was injured and went crazy was probably related to the owner of this fawn. If it hadn't experienced such a life-or-death battle and suffered such severe injuries, this mountain beast's strength would probably be even more terrifying. Even at its current state of weakened strength, it was no ordinary warrior could defeat it. Bleed it. Yaxiang's eyes flickered, her hands ablaze as she gripped the smooth walls of the fangs tightly, using her magical power to force them against her, then struggled to pull them outward. 700 to 800 kilograms of force couldn't budge the fangs even a bit. Unwilling to give up, Yaxiang gritted her teeth and continued to push. Perhaps the fangs had penetrated too deeply, lodging themselves in the beast's bones, yet they remained motionless. This action directly irritated the beast, as its final breath was largely held by the fawn. If the fawn were pulled out, its held breath would be instantly shed, spilling blood. Riding on the female wolf lion, Li's movements were nimble, and the beast's frantic, chaotic attacks were unable to accurately hit. The only impact was the wind pressure and flying debris, which left Li covered in dust. The beast, sensing its last shred of life threatened, lashed its claws at its shoulder. A chill ran down her spine, and she abandoned her fangs and leaped high, stepping on the fangs. This time, with a powerful leap, she reached directly onto the beast's earlobe. Roar! There was only a shrill roar, and the desperate mountain beast actually slapped the protruding fangs into the flesh with a slap. This is a vicious beast. In order to keep holding on to this breath, I no longer care at all. The deafening roar made Yaxiang's head buzz with pain. If she hadn't been promoted to a first-class warrior, she would have fainted from the pain. Yaxiang covered her ears, her eyes blazing like a snake's tongue. She gritted her teeth and slapped the beast just above its earlobe. The magic power in the atmosphere was summoned, and the violent fire elements began to become restless and fly around wantonly. What is that human woman doing? This attack is completely useless. Chapter 92, Mountain Beast Attack 6. In the distance, Red Wolf and Meow murmured quietly. They were already impressed by Yaxiang's ability to achieve this level. She could jump back and forth on a mountain beast without getting hurt. If it were them, they would never be able to do it. But just like that, there was no way to defeat the mountain beast. Slapping the beast's earlobes, the attack seemed weak and powerless. There was no way such a method of attack could be effective. Before the two of them could finish their inner complaints, their eyes had already widened into a look of disbelief. There was only a loud bang. The mountain beast's eyeballs exploded. Unlike being pierced by earth spikes, actually exploded. A circular beam of flame, half the size of a human, suddenly exploded in the mountain beast's eyeball, piercing through the white pupil and burning inside the eyeball. A continuous sizzling sound and wisps of green smoke filled the air. What had originally been a broken water tank was now completely broken. Again, Yaxiang was excited to see that the attack was successful, and she couldn't help but recall the hand-to-hand fight with her old friend, the black bear, a year ago. The scars on her waist were souvenirs left from that time. Unfortunately, she did not win that battle, and was finally carried back to the camp by her tribesmen with her injured body. Being able to fight with such passion like that time finally awakened the fighting spirit buried deep in her blood. Having been protected by Su Yu for so long, Yaxiang felt both happy and frustrated. She was a woman, but also a warrior. Being able to fight alongside her man was the life she ultimately longed for. At this moment, she regained some confidence, and the fanatical Amazon warrior came online again. The wrath of heaven explodes with fire. Yaxiang's captivating voice echoed between heaven and earth. Her entire body burned with flames, her flaming hair dancing behind her. She was like an undefeated flame god, her nimble form leaping over the beasts, her sorcerous power coursing through her. With every wave of her hand, a pillar of blazing fire appeared above the beasts' heads. The flames, brilliant and powerful, accompanied the beast's shrill roars, interweaving into a wondrous melody. Li below was watching in a trance, just like when she was little, following behind Yaxiang and concentrating on her hunting. So heroic. This was her childhood idol and the warrior she admired most, and that will never change. And what I have to do is to surpass her. Do your best to fight against this mountain beast. Attack, attack continuously, attack beyond all limits. As if to cater to Li's mood, the earth element in the surrounding atmosphere began to surge, and the world in Li's eyes changed accordingly. An endless stream of earth elements converged toward her feet. From somewhere, she seemed to hear a voice, like an earth spirit whispering a few vague words in her ear. The soil vibrated imperceptibly, some of it drifting strangely into the air. The dense earth elemental magical energy was already forming turbulent currents in the air. This magical scene practically stunned the orcs and ghosts. What the hell was this? I never seen such a cool and bizarre sight in my life. Suyu narrowed his eyes slightly. He could clearly see the earth elemental magical power surrounding Li, cheering and leaping with joy. He even sensed a strangely familiar aura within it. Li's magical power was rapidly expanding, reaching its peak in an irreversible manner. This is... Suyu's expression froze. She remembered something and felt incredible. A gift from the world. No wonder it felt familiar. Kelly was clearly just a second-rate warrior. So why did she receive a gift of power? Because she's a witch? The will of the world has already fallen asleep. So these are the rules by which the world operates on its own, which are different from the rules of ordinary people. This is quite interesting. To be honest, Suyu didn't have much affection for the world's will. If one day she could gain power that surpassed her, she would definitely pick up this playful guy and give him a good spanking. In this instant, Li moved. The light in her eyes became brighter, and the wonderful sound in her ears became clearer. She slowly raised her arms with her 5 fingers spread wide. The surging earth element, engulfing endless debris, formed a vortex of magical power in the air. The vortex swirled rapidly, and the debris coalesced into a massive spear, nearly 10 meters long, instantly completed. The spear's tip resembled a half-open umbrella, its point not sharp, but solid and smooth, yet it felt indestructible. The spear's body, like a twisted braid, twisted and locked in a straight center. The tail, in contrast, protruded much further than the tip, its sharp point gleaming with a cold light. Li's rapidly rising momentum finally stopped at this moment, and then her magic power burst out again. Second rate becomes first rate. Big spiral gun. The moment these words were uttered, Li swung the giant spear with her arm. Like an arrow piercing the air or a cannonball fired from a gun, it pierced the beast's eyes in the blink of an eye. The spear pierced through the beast's eyeballs, piercing deep into its skull. The spear exploded in its skull, and its 2 eyes erupted like a mudslide. Yixiong was shocked to see this, but she quickly reacted when she saw Li lying on the wolf lion's back because of the sudden loss of her magic power. This is an opportunity. She leaped down from the top of the mountain beast, and the flames on her body surged several times at this moment. The air around her could feel waves of burning heat. The raging flames gradually condensed into a strange flame core similar to a fire core in the palm of her hand. She clenched her hands without hesitation. The wrath of heaven explodes with fire. Suddenly, a fiery red scorch emanated from the beast's cheeks, like red-hot rock heated by a branding iron or magma about to erupt. A blazing flame exploded, the force of the column of fire thrusting its head back. The beast's mouth opened wide, and the column of fire shot up into sky like a shockwave. Just like the end of a gorgeous stage play, a rain of fire fell from the sky. The crazy and violent mountain beast stood still for a few frames, and finally fell down with a loud bang. Its huge body tilted backwards and pressed heavily on the desolate and bumpy ground. The earth trembled violently, and the whole valley shook. "Are you okay?" Yaxiong, who fell from the sky, was caught in Suyu's arms. When Yaxiong made the final attack, Suyu had already left the place. At the same moment, the wolf lion carrying Li also ran over. Li seemed a little exhausted, her face slightly pale. Forcing a breakthrough through the realm, and then drawing upon the magical power to unleash that kind of move, yet still remaining conscious, was already quite impressive. So, the tribe had gained another first-rate warrior. "Brother Suyu, did we defeat the mountain beast?" "Yes, you and Yaxiong defeated him together." With the beast's corpse right before her eyes, Li felt that everything was unreal, especially since she had suddenly achieved a breakthrough and gained a strange fighting skill. "Li, you are very brave. Yaxiang jumped down from Su Yu's arms and looked at Li with admiration. Hee, Sister Yaxiang is braver. Li felt a little embarrassed. As if too excited, Li Chang cheered up, jumped off the wolf lion, and came to the big foot of the mountain beast's corpse. He stretched out his hand and patted its paw several times and made a sound of tisk. It's really hard. Chapter 93, Little Mountain Beast. It was seriously injured and has a strange fang on its neck, otherwise it wouldn't have been killed so easily. The beast that could injure it to this extent must be more powerful than the mountain beasts. Yaxiang explained. Fangs? Su Yu became interested and, with a few light leaps, she reached the neck of the mountain beast. There's a bloody hole there, even larger than a wellhead, with the pale fracture of a fang faintly visible. Su Yu endured the stench and reached out to grab it. With a strong pull, she pulled the fang out directly. It's so long. The fangs were over 10 meters long. After Su Yu pulled out a section, she had to drag the rest out. The sharp spikes were shaped like long, narrow crescents, stained with some green venom, which made people's scalps tingle. It looked a bit like a mammoth's tusk, but not quite. Forget it. Let's take it back first. Su Jue murmurith. He would never guess that this thing would be the tooth of a giant python. Leave the body here first. Let's see Jiao bring people to decompose it tomorrow. Its meat is highly poisonous and cannot be used, but the bones can be collected. Su Yu said to Yaxiang. Yaxiang nodded and waved her hand. Moonlight Leopard ran over happily. I hope this guy's enemies aren't around here, Su Yu muttered to herself. After all, a beast that could injure a mountain beast like this and possess such huge fangs must be no ordinary creature. It's better to be cautious, to be on the safe side. Su Yu turned on the map radar and took a look at the beast within a 2,000-meter radius. Well, I was scared to death by this mountain beast. No, there's also a red that keeps flashing. But, Su Yu exclaimed, her pupils shrinking slightly. This guy is right in front of me. Leaping to the huge body of the mountain beast, Su Yu looked up and saw nothing but the red that was right next to her. Su Yu couldn't help but look at the huge belly of the mountain beast, her eyebrows raised. No way. Is this a female mountain beast? He raised the fang and scratched the beast's belly back and forth many times, finally cutting through its flesh. In an instant, a mixture of smelly blood plasma and venom flowed out. Stay away. This venom is quite toxic, and the filth in its stomach is too dirty. Su Yu doesn't want Yaxiang and the others to touch it. Inside the belly of the mountain beast, there was actually an egg sac wrapped in a white hard shell. The venom seemed unable to penetrate into it. There was constant movement inside, and there was obviously still breath. Su Yu used her sharp teeth to split open the cracked hard shell, and then gently scratched the tough membrane, revealing a small mountain beast that had not yet opened its eyes. Did I perform a cesarean section on a mountain beast? Su Yu was just surprised when the system prompt sounded. Ding! Found a taming target, a young mountain beast, second rate in strength. Calculating magic power matching. Taming success, rate 99%. Is this okay? Su Yu's eyes lit up. A beast like that was truly free. Even in her belly, this little beast was already about the same size as Kokoro. If it grew up successfully, it would be like her mother, and she would ride it herself. How cool would that be? Su Yu immediately jumped into the abdomen, ignoring the filthy organs around it, and reached out to touch the forehead of the young mountain beast. Ding! Matching infusion successful, taming a young mountain beast, currently second rate in strength. Su Yu was overjoyed and pulled the sleeping little mountain beast out. Although its breath was weak, its heartbeat was steady and strong, so it should not have been seriously affected. Su Yu looked at the miserable dead mountain beast and couldn't help but sigh. Even if we don't kill you, you will die eventually. However, I will do my best to avenge you, even if it means accepting your child as a thank you gift. Su Yu brought the young wild animal down with her, which really scared Yaxiang and the others. But after all, it was a young wild animal that hadn't woken up yet, so Yaxiang and Li quickly accepted it. The ghost people and orcs who were standing aside remained silent until Su Yu and the other two returned riding on the wolf lion and moonlight leopard. Only then did they look guilty and didn't know what to say. The stubborn and conservative red wolf felt ashamed of accepting the favor from the human race. Miao was much more calm in this regard, but he was a little hesitant about how to thank the other party. Su Yu walked in front of the two groups, looked at Baiwa and Guagua, as well as the children behind him, and waved. Okay, let's go back to the tribe. Okay, broter Su Yue. Wu, undersoar. Baiwa was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Guagua, however, looked at his elder sister, then at Su Yu, seemingly reluctant to leave. Finally, Baihua took his hand and pulled him over. The rest of the children followed suit, their eyes wide open. No, just go back to your tribe. What do you mean by taking our children away? Honglang, a Meow, and others were instantly filled with questions. Human, why did you take our children away? Seeing that the children were about to leave, Red Wolf and a Meow finally asked. Suyu stopped the wolf lion and glanced at Baiwa. The little girl from the ghost tribe then looked at her father with shame on her face. Father, we are already his people. Sister, he said that if you join his tribe, he will save you. That's right. You don't think I would help you for no reason, do you? Suyuishchirak. Red Wolf was stunned. What? His face was ashen, as if he was wearing a mask of pain. Just like some plots in Blue Star, the daughter suddenly comes back with her boyfriend and says, Dad, I'm pregnant with his child. It's a desperate scene. Thinking back on his daughter's life over the years, the hardships he had gone through in raising her, the happiness when she threw herself into his arms and called him Dad, how cute she was when she was being naughty. The light in Red Wolf's eyes gradually dimmed, perhaps because he had experienced this thrilling escape and was physically and mentally exhausted, a double blow. Red Wolf lost consciousness while standing. My goodness, the strong second master also fell down. Chief, wake up. Chief. The members of the Ghost Clan immediately stepped forward to support him, preventing him from falling to the ground. On the other side, Meow looked at Guagua and others, finally gritted his teeth and blocked the way. Suyu couldn't help but frown. Are you going to refuse? Meow shook his head, his eyes changing from hesitation to determination. I want to join you too. All the children in her tribe had been abducted by this human man. What future did their group have? Furthermore, the people in the tribe wouldn't be willing to let the children leave like this, and she was even more worried about her only sister. I can't beat him. There's only one answer left. If you can't beat them, join them. Sure. Suyu laughed inwardly, but kept her face expressionless as she looked at Meow's people. What about you? Chapter 94. Small Mountain Beast 2. Now that the clan leader had expressed his opinion, this group of people had nothing to say and simply nodded. We'll go with the kids. It was a bit unexpected that the leader of the ghost tribe fainted. Suyu looked at the melancholy-looking ghost people and said, Most of you are injured. I can let you stay outside my camp first. I will also lend you food and water. Everything will be decided after your chief wakes up. Hearing this, Baihua finally breathed a sigh of relief. The ghost people were not likely to refuse. Having food to eat was better than starving to death. Besides, all the children in the tribe had joined other tribes, leaving them at a loss for what to do. Back at camp, Li jumped up and down to share the joy of victory with her companions. The news of their victory over and slaying the mountain beast was like a bombshell, shocking the tribesmen to the point of not knowing what to say. To them, mountain beasts existed only in stories and tales. They didn't want to see them, but they were deeply curious, and at the same time, they were terrified by the terrifying rumors spread among their tribes. Mountain beasts are the nightmare of ethnic tribes. This has been an eternal fact among tribes. Yet today, their newly appointed high priest had actually led her people to victory. More precisely, it was the priestess who had defeated the mountain beasts with her own strength. This news was like a dream, so unreal. In the eyes of Xiao Huahua and Xiao Hunyang, who had personally experienced the battle with the mountain beasts, the feeling was 10 or 100 times stronger than that of Suyu's people. Hearsay could never be as real as seeing it with one's own eyes. As the heroine of that battle, Xiao Huahua knew deeply how terrifying the mountain beasts were. On that occasion, the tribe accidentally found an iron mine, and Xiao Huahua led the tribe to occupy and excavate it. At that time, the tribe's chief, which was at war with other tribes in order to expand the territory, so only 4 top-notch warriors were arranged for guarding. Iron mines are often infested with ferocious beasts, especially mountain beasts that feast on iron ore. Xiao Huahua hadn't expected such good luck to actually encounter one, a fully grown, ferocious, and violent creature. The tribe's 4 top-tier warriors, confident of a 4-on-1 match, were ultimately defeated. However, their carelessness led them to be utterly defeated. The tribe members responsible for the excavation were even more no match, and were nearly wiped out. If it weren't for Xiao Hunyang, who protected Xiao Huahua closely, fighting with all her might and risking her life, and finally ending up with both of her and the mountain beast injured, Xiao Huahua would probably have died long ago. Xiao Huahua still remembers the mountain beast's terrifying, cold, dark eyes and the tremendous force of its kick that almost crushed the earth. Xiao Hunyang was no exception, stunned beyond words. She was especially shocked when she heard that it wasn't Su Yu who had killed the beast, but Yixiong and Li. Her eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. If Xiao Huahua hadn't pulled her back, she'd have rushed to the other side of the valley to see the beast's corpse. Even so, she insisted on joining the team that would dismember the beast the next day. Su Yu called Si Jiao and others and told them that they would have time to move back the trees they had cut down and left in the jungle, and then led the orcs into the camp. As for the ghost people, Su Yu let them camp outside the camp, asked Winnie to give them some food and water, and then left them alone. The Orc tribe has 9 children and 23 adults, including 16 females. In total, 32 new members have joined the tribe. This is a great thing for the tribe, and coupled with the joy of defeating the mountain beasts, it is worth celebrating. After Su Yu told Winnie about this, Winnie immediately gave the order. With the young mountain beast that was about to wake up, Su Yu, Yaxiong, and Kokoro returned to the big house. Very few people truly understand the living habits of mountain beasts. Even though it is still a young creature, Su Yu did not dare to throw it into the animal pen to raise it. What if it also likes to eat meat? None of her chickens, ducks, and lambs can withstand a few bites from it. The young wild animal was placed on the hay. Kokoro was like a curious baby, circling around it but not daring to touch it. Wolf 1 and Wolf 2 circled around Kokoro's calves, humming and sticking out their tongues and wagging their tails. Their evolution was complete, and they had become the ultimate lackeys. It's only been a short time. Wolves and dogs are indeed from the same family. Yaxiong was very proud today. The corners of her mouth were always tilted up, not afraid of cramps. She could hear a humming sound from her delicate nose. There was a hint of provocation in her eyes when she looked at Su Yu. Su Yu smiled in her heart. "Little guy, I'll teach you a lesson tonight." "Brother Su Yu, is this the little mountain beast?" Kokoro looked up and asked. Su Yu nodded. "Well, it will probably wake up soon. Go get some meat and see if it wants to eat it." "Great." Kokoro ran away with a smile. The young beast's skin was still scaleless, with only faint traces of armor visible. Its entire body was a pale black, its forehead smooth, its lips slightly parted, its sharp fangs visible. Its claws hadn't fully grown yet, lacking the massive, blade-like claws of its mother. Its chest rose and fell, its breath much more steadily than when it had initially rested in its abdomen. Perhaps due to the influence of the animal taming skills, the young mountain beast woke up much earlier. Under the gaze of Su Yu and Kokoro, it finally slowly opened its eyelids. "Brother Su Yu, wake up! Wake up! Open your eyes and look so clean!" Kokoro shouted excitedly. Even Yaxiong, who was resting nearby, rolled over, turned around, crossed her legs, and looked over. Su Yu squatted down, and Kiki Luo put her arms around his neck and hung on his back. "Gah!" As soon as it opened its eyes, the young mountain beast whimpered. It looked at this new world and the strange people in front of it, with a hint of confusion in its eyes, but only for a moment. Then it stuck out its tongue and sucked it on Su Yu's face. "Gah!" The sound sounds very happy, as if someone is calling out to his loved ones. Many animals will regard the first thing they see as their closest relative, not to mention the bond of animal taming between the little mountain beast and Su Yu. The enthusiasm is good, but the smell is a bit strong. Kokoro let out a woo-wah and ran away giggling, pinching her nose. "Brother Su Yu, you've become smelly." Kokoro's playful laughter stung Su Yu's heart. "You're abandoning me now. Where's the love we promised each other?" Just one mouthful of saliva mercilessly destroyed it. The little mountain beast wanted to lick it again, but Su Yu reached out and pressed its forehead to express his ugly rejection. After a while, Kokoro came back, holding a bamboo tube filled with water and a cloth made of cotton and linen, and happily began to wipe Su Yu's face. "My broken heart has been restored to its original state. My wife is still so caring." Chapter 95, Welcome to the Orcs. Su Yu picked up the dried meat on the ground and shook it in front of the little mountain beast's nose. The beast grunted for a long time, licked it with its tongue, and swallowed it in one gulp. In other words, it didn't only eat iron ore, which was fine, at least she could afford it now. Outside, 2 wolf lions and a moonlight leopard lay bored on the ground. Several children were petting their fur and making cackling noises. If Su Yu hadn't told the tribe ahead of time that they were tamed and wouldn't bite, no one would have dared approach. Time passed quickly, and soon it was dusk. Lin arrived suddenly. Suyu, the orcs are still waiting for you to come over. Okay, I'll be there in a moment. Then I'll go over and wait for you. When she turned around, Kokoro covered Yaxiong and herself with a quilt. The two of them were hiding in the quilt and whispering. Sister Yaxiong, are you angry with Brother Suyu? No. Then why are you pouting? You're not seeing things. I'm Breeden. The venue for the tribe's meetings had been moved from the open space to the grounds beneath the apple trees. Winnie was probably worried that if the area was too close to the plantations, the tribe members would accidentally trample on the vegetables. There are a large number of high-quality trees on that open space. Si Jiao and others are very efficient in their work. 32 orcs, large and small, stood at the front of the group. The priestesses were also very curious about this group of foreigners with animal ears on their heads and tails on their backs. The relationship between the non-humans and humans wasn't good, similar to the shrine maidens. The adults seemed quite reserved, but the children were having a blast. The young girl happily stroked the ears of the Guagua children, pinched their tails, and played with them. The children were having fun, and the witches were very kind. Meow and the others felt less anxious and less resistant. Especially after entering the camp, they were stunned by the strange houses made of stone and wood, the strange red and white plants, the large trees bearing sweet fruit, the thorn fences outside the camp to keep out wild beasts, and the domesticated wild animals. Although they had never joined a large force like the Tribal Alliance, they had seen and heard a lot. Why were so many things in this small camp so strange and incredible? They couldn't understand it at all. The witches drew water from the well and brought over red apples. Meow and the others blushed with shame. The water tastes so good. The fruit is so sweet. The meat tastes numbing and delicious. I originally thought that joining the human race was a helpless decision. Right now, it smells so good. Except for those few male orcs, one can feel the huge gap between people. Why isn't there a witch coming to touch our ears? Why is the orc girl's tale so popular? Although they didn't neglect each other, the difference in preferences was too obvious. Could it be that these women don't like men? That must be the case. It seems that not many of the human men over there are approached by the witches. That's absolutely true. The witch doesn't like men. After all, it is said that human witches would kill men and hinder the reproduction of the tribe. So they were expelled from the tribe, and it is natural that they hate men. The male orc comforted himself. Until Suyu appeared, the witches rushed forward, with strange light shining in their eyes. Witch Su, can you take me to see the mountain beast tomorrow? Witch Su, I caught some big fish today. Would you like to come over and eat with me tonight? Witch Su, that soap smells so good, and it makes my body so clean. Come and smell it. Witch Su, I keep hearing strange noises at night. Can you come and help me take a look? This. The orcs felt that the fiery gaze in the witch's eyes was somewhat familiar, very similar to their appearance during mating season. Wanama, who just said that witches hate men? The male orc's mood became even more depressed. Suyu smiled at the tribesman and said, Don't try to corrupt me with sugar-coated bullets. I can guarantee that I can't stand it. Although she didn't quite understand why the male orc looked so listless, Suyu still waved to them. The orcs gathered around, and Winnie and Lioli stood beside them holding bone knives with blood-red tips. They looked a little scary. The priestesses stood on the periphery, and the noise gradually died down. Winnie winked at Suyu, indicating that the performance could begin. The corners of Suyu's mouth twitched, and she wondered who was the clan leader now. Chapter 96, Carving Clan Emblem. He was pushed to the front of the stage, cleared his throat, and said to everyone, Today is a very lucky day. We have defeated the mountain beasts and gained new members of our tribe. They're the orcs. Now that they have joined us, they will be our family. I hope everyone will not look down on each other's races, live together, and work hard for the future of our tribe. Okay, great Witch Su. Don't worry, Su Da. Everyone welcome the orcs. The spirits of the witches were high, and soon they became friends with a Meow and the others, except for those poor male orcs. Meow. Suyu suddenly called a Meow over. This beast woman had two large, pointed, furry ears, stood about 1.7 meters tall, and her breasts were incredibly large. She had a voluptuous figure, yet possessed the wildness of a feline. Unlike Yaxiong, she possessed the sensuality of a true beast. Her face was delicate, her pupils bright, and her figure was no less than that of a celebrity model from Blue Star. She came to Suyu, holding her sister Guagua in one hand. Now she is no longer the clan leader, but a member of the Suyu clan. What's the matter, Su Dao? Why don't you try adding a meow at the end of your sentence? Suyu said with a smile on a whim. Meow tilted his head and rolled his eyes. What's the matter? Meow. Sudago. It has a bit of taste. It would be perfect if I could give a little fist and lick it with my tongue. As for training, it has to be done slowly. Suyu put away her playful mood and talked about business. Meow, after we've dismantled the mountain beasts, you and your tribe will expand the camp. Would you feel uncomfortable joining our tribe and living in the same camp with the witch? No. Meow, we are already members of the tribe. It's normal for us to live together, meow. Meow felt that adding a meow at the end of the sentence was not bad, and Suyu liked him, and he was the chief witch of the tribe. It seemed that he had more say than the tribe leader, and his power was so strong, she should get closer to him. Suyu touched her chin and nodded, then continued to ask, how many of your people are partners? Partner? Meow was puzzled. It's the relationship between men and women of our human race, where men and women live in the same tent. In this era, there were no terms like husband and wife. Men and women would simply address each other by their first names or publicly declare, my woman, my man. It didn't sound awkward, so Suyu didn't object. Suyu thought that the titles would change depending on the race, but she didn't expect them to be universal. Oh, I see, meow. Meow nodded, then thought for a moment and replied, there are 3 couples now, right? There are also 4 male members of the tribe who don't have their own women. They are not strong enough, so they can't reproduce with the women they like. Can't beat him. Suyu was stunned. Yes, meow. 2 of them came to me, but I hate men weaker than me. I am the tribe leader and cannot refuse them directly, so I beat them up. Meow raised his head arrogantly. Suyu was embarrassed. She never thought that in order to have her own woman among the orcs, she still had to beat the other party. Okay, I understand. Then the 3 orc couples will continue to live together. In 2 days, I will arrange new camps for all those who have partners. I understand, meow. Meow nodded. In fact, Suyu did this because Kokoro secretly told her about the little conversation between her and Lin's sisters. Lin asked Kokoro to keep her voice down at night because she and Winnie always had trouble falling asleep because of the noise. Only then did Suyu know why Winnie had those panda eyes for the past few days. After all, single women and those in relationships cannot live too close to each other. As for myself, I'm a great witch. Why should I move away? Ha ha ha. Next comes the time for the much-anticipated branding of the clan emblem. Suyu had left in a hurry before to take a bath with his wife and had not been able to see it. Today he was lucky enough to see it. The executioner Lioli held a bone knife and carefully carved a pattern on the tribe member's arm. Yes, it was that frying pan. A circle with a handle, simple and practical. If you add a horizontal line, it will be the symbol of Blue Star Women, female sign. Each of the orcs was like a child going to the hospital for an injection, grinning, breathing in, and baring their teeth. Obviously, no one frowned or cried out in pain when they were injured while hunting, but it was just so real, with their eyes squinting and their faces looking like, oh, it's coming, it's coming. Meow, who was so proud and confident just now closed his eyes and pursed his lips into wavy lines, looking so cute from the heart. Snort. What a coward. Suyu is native. Immediately. Suyu, it's your turn. You didn't get a tattoo last time. Winnie's voice came over. This. I don't have to get a tattoo, to be honest. I'm afraid of pain. Suyu, who was forcibly dragged over, glanced at the bloody knife in Lioli's hand and muttered something in his heart. It's coming, it's coming. After the carnival, everyone goes back to their homes. The orc children were led back home by their parents, while the ghost children were left bewildered, unsure of their whereabouts. After all, their parents were away, and they had no place to sleep. Each of them looked at Suyu with gloomy eyes. Bai Hua, considered the leader of the ghost children, approached. Su, great wizard, what should we do? Suyu touched Bayue's thought. The little pointed corners were a bit prickly and itchy. You can call me Brother Suyu. Then Brother Suyu, where are we going to sleep? Besides, we are all children and cannot hunt. I didn't plan to let you go hunting. Some children can't even walk steadily. So how can you go hunting? Are you sure you are not going to be hunted? Do you think you could be embarrassed? Suyu pinched Baihua's little face. Her skin was red and not nearly as soft as that of humans. As she pinched it, she felt a chill on her back, as if something sharp was pricking her body. It's the resentment from my old father. Red Wolf had already woken up and was standing outside the camp with his tribe, watching the movements inside. They had all witnessed the welcoming of the orcs. The atmosphere was warm and lively, and there were plenty of fruits and strange foods being distributed. It would be a lie to say that they weren't envious. It is said that humans look down on non-human races, but this is not felt at all here. Especially when he saw Suyu pinching his daughter's little face, Hong Lang couldn't stand it anymore. He clenched his fists and then lowered them, then clenched them again and lowered them again. Hold on, mainly because I can't beat him. And he even saved the lives of his tribe members. Oh, I'm so angry. On Blue Star, you can do whatever you want if you have money, but here, you can do whatever you want if you have power. Bai Huan naturally saw his father and his tribesmen as well. The young ghost people children were about to burst into tears. They had only been away from their parents for half a day, but it felt like a year. Some children ran over with their legs stretched out, stumbling. Suyu didn't stop them, rubbing her nose. She felt like a villain. He kidnapped all the other people's children. He is so mean. Chapter 97, Iron Mine. The members of the ghost tribe hesitated for a long time, but finally couldn't resist their feelings for the child, so they tentatively stepped into Suyu's camp, picked up the child, and snuggled together. Baiwa didn't move, just looked at her father quietly, and then called out, "Father!" The voice no longer had the mischievousness of the past, but carried a hint of helplessness. A fatal blow. Red Wolf couldn't stand it anymore and strode in. Erie's strong body was a head taller than Suyu, and he stared at Suyu fiercely for a long time. Final. Seeing his daughter's lonely and thin body, he looked up to the sky and sighed. "Human, I hope you can treat my people the same way you treat your own." Suyu smiled. "I don't discriminate by race here. Everyone who comes in is my people. As long as I'm here, they won't be hungry and won't have no place to live." Red Wolf's tall body trembled slightly. He could tell that the man in front of him was speaking very seriously, and he couldn't help but recall the difficult times during this period. Suyu's strength may not be the strongest, but her sincerity is enough to reassure Hong Lang. "Okay." Red Wolf nodded. "Can you tell me your name?" "My name is Suyu." "My name is Red Wolf." Red Wolf knelt on one knee and bowed his head deeply. This was the ghost people salute, representing their oath of allegiance to the clan leader. "Sudao, we hope to join your tribe and follow you to protect our family." "Can." Suyu Ismail. Baihua's face seemed to bloom with flowers, and she suddenly rushed into her father's arms. "That's all for tonight. Tomorrow we'll go decompose the mountain beast carcasses with the orcs, and then expand the camp." "Okay." Red Wolf stood up, holding White Flower in his arms. The tribesmen behind him all breathed a sigh of relief. They were worried the leader would be stubborn and leave with them. Abandoning one's own child was something no one would agree to. Facts have proved that the old father can never resist the lethality of the little cotton-padded jacket. Suyu suddenly asked, "By the way, do you want to hold a welcome meeting for you two? It is not okay to give partial treatment, and it is not troublesome." Red Wolf smiled awkwardly and shook his head. "No need. We can just let the little girl in the tribe tattoo us with the clan crest tomorrow." "Okay, I'll have the clan leader send out a notice tomorrow." Just as Suyu was about to go back to rest, Red Wolf said, "Great Witch Su, there is something I want to tell you about that mountain beast." "What's the matter?" Suyu stopped and looked back at Red Wolf. "We saw that mountain beast a few years ago. It's in a mountain in the south, about 10 days' journey from here." "Oh, what's wrong?" Suyu calculated in her mind, and it should be more than 100 miles. Red Wolf hesitated for a moment and said, "There's an iron mine over there. This mountain beast has been guarding it before, so it should have never been discovered." "Iron mine. This is indeed good news. I've actually encountered you before, our tribe, but never made any direct contact. That's why I know you're short of iron." Red Wolf gathered his words, frowning as he spoke. "However, the iron mine has both advantages and disadvantages for our tribe. This mountain beast was seriously injured and driven out, so I guess more powerful beasts have moved into the mountains. So, for the safety of our tribe, I don't recommend going there to search for resources. But I must tell you this news, as a thank you to Great Witch Su for saving our lives. People who are conservative in thinking and value friendship are good and know how to repay kindness." And what Red Wolf said was not wrong. The deep mountains over 100 miles away were full of dangers. Apart from the possibility of competition from other tribes, just defeating the unknown beast in the mountains was already a difficult task. However, for the development of the tribe, Suyu did not want to give up this iron mine. If he didn't give it a try, how would he know if he could do it? "Okay, I understand. I will think about this matter carefully." Suyu patted the second master's shoulder appreciatively. "We know very little about the specific situation right now, and Red Wolf only knows about events from a few years ago, so it's best to gather intelligence first. Only by knowing both ourselves and the enemy can we formulate the most appropriate plan. Now with the wolf, lion, and moonlight leopard, the round trip will be much easier. Then let's go back and rest first. Red Wolf and others nodded, and then returned to the camp. Chapter 98, Decomposing the Mountain Beast. When I got up, the sun was already halfway up in the sky. It was around 9 o'clock in the morning. Suyu put on her clothes and came to the apple tree in the center of the camp. The ghost people and the beast people all gathered here, while Si Jiao and others were carrying stones and wood and building houses with the help of Li according to the design drawings given by Suyu. This is Suyu's stone and wood house, so it's a bit large and complicated inside. But Si Jiao is quite capable, so Suyu still trusts him. Today, Suyu's mission is to take the ghost people and the orc people to the other side of the valley to decompose the corpses of mountain beasts. The shell of the beast's body was too hard for them to do it alone, so Suyu had to come forward and be responsible for cutting open the beast's body, and the tribesmen would then divide the meat inside. The beast was huge, so this task would probably be difficult to complete in 1 or 2 days. The little mountain beast was fully awake and had been placed alone in a small pen, carefully cared for by the farmer, Kokoro. However, the farmer was still asleep, so the little mountain beast's lunch would probably have to be delayed. Meow and Red Wolf stood at the front, and the tribesmen were all wearing bow knives. This was sent by Winnie that morning. She had originally planned to go out and see the world together, but Sister Lin said that the new clothes were made and immediately disappeared. Next to the 2 tribes, Xiao Hunyang was rubbing her hands, feeling extremely excited. Xiao Huahua's words were just like Winnie's. When she ran behind him, her butt was shaking in a very coquettish way. It's no exaggeration to say that women are born to love beauty. As they passed through the valley, they could see the tribesmen on the other side of the stream, cheering and rejoicing over their catch. The massive body of the beast lay on the other side of the valley. They had previously sneaked a peek and were frightened back. Even though it was a dead body, such a terrifying and enormous monster still left a lingering fear in their hearts. Seeing Suyu passing by with the orcs and ghosts, the witches stopped fishing and shouted, "Suda, we caught a lot of fish. The fish in this mountain stream will be wiped out sooner or later." Poor fish. No, it has to eat something at night. Otherwise, it won't even have fish soup to drink in the end. "Sudao, come to my place to eat fish tonight. Sudao, come to my place, come to my place. You can eat more than just fish there." Ahem. Suyu smiled slightly and said, "I really want to eat it. I mean fish." Behind them, Meow, Red Wolf, and the others were also surprised. They had never seen a great witch in a tribe so popular among the female tribesmen. In large tribes, it was common for female tribesmen to like strong warriors, but it was not popular among an entire tribe. But after observing Suyu carefully, Red Wolf understood again. She is so fair and beautiful, treats her people gently, and is very strong. If he were to become a woman, he might be attracted to her. At least from Red Wolf's perspective. Even Meow, the former tribe leader, seemed to be starting to have a strange attitude towards Suyu. She hated enemies, and when she fought, her tail would stick straight out, her fur flaring. Since morning, the beast woman's tail had been limp and swaying nonstop. Her expression towards Suyu was normal, but in her transparent, vertical pupils, a flicker of starlight could be seen. Even her speech had become strange, with a meow at the end of her sentences. Red Wolf was not clear about the living habits of the orcs, so he wondered whether Meow had any special intentions towards Suyu, a human. But none of this had anything to do with him. The orcs and the ghosts were now one and the same. They were all Suyu's people, and there should be no speculation or suspicion between tribesmen. Red Wolf discarded the random thoughts in his mind and focused on following Suyu. It could be said that honest and conservative people like Red Wolf are easy to be bullied because they don't understand the truth that people's hearts are hidden. But Suyu doesn't hate such people because once they are conquered, they will be very loyal. Loyalty, it can be said, is something that is out of reach for many tribal leaders no matter what the world context is. Are the great witches loyal? Loyalty, it can be said that loyalty is to the death. But what if there is no restriction of the heavenly oath? I believe that no other clan leader will dare to make such bold statements. He is the patron saint of their tribe, but also a thorn in their flesh. The emperor is ruthless because of his achievements. This is indeed something that only those in power would consider. Soon, the group crossed the valley and came to the dead mountain beast. Yesterday's devastation had left the forest bare, like a shaved head, exposed to the sky. The stench of flesh and blood from the dead beasts attracted many hawks and falcons to circle in the sky. The beasts in the forest had already fled, and it was estimated that they would not dare to set foot here for 10 days or half a month. Xiao Hunyang was also slightly lost in thought as she gazed at the mountain-like beast body. The monster she had once fought with all her might, but hadn't been able to completely kill, was now actually falling before her eyes. Moreover, the size and strength of this monster's leather armor were clearly superior to the one she had fought before. She had heard Li's account of the battle and knew that the beast had been seriously injured, but it was not something that an ordinary person could do to completely kill a dying adult beast. A fiery flash of light flashed in Xiao Hunyang's eyes. For the first time, she felt that the witches mentioned by the Alliance were not as weak and frail as the rumors said. Everyone stopped in front of the beast's corpse. Suyu jumped up first and found that on the narrow, bloody hole in the abdomen, there were 5 or 6 falcon corpses lying scattered around. Their bodies were stiff, their eyes were pale, their hooked beaks were slightly open, and light green saliva was flowing out. Most of these eagles devoured the flesh and blood of mountain beasts, but they did not expect to be killed by the unknown poison in the meat. The fact that the meat of wild animals is no longer edible is indirectly confirmed. Meow, Red Wolf, tell the tribesmen to wrap their hands with linen and try not to touch the wild animal meat as much as possible when cutting it. This meat is highly poisonous, what you call the zombosis disease. If you feel unwell, get away and rest immediately and tell me. In this era, those poisoned would convulse, foam at the mouth, or simply die from stiffness, hence the name stupor. Consumption of the poison would result in immediate death, but so you had no idea if skin contact would be any safer. Fortunately, the mall offered inexpensive herbal detoxification products, so if any of the tribe members were truly allergic, they could be treated promptly. Okay, Great Witch Su, I'll tell the tribe members right away. Got it, Meow. Hong Lang and Meow nodded and passed on Su Yu's suggestion. Afterwards, Su Yu held the huge fangs obtained yesterday and started working on the paw of the mountain beast. Chapter 99. Today's bone knives are only arm-length long, and their quality is definitely not as good as this broken tusk. Even if Su Yu is a top-notch warrior, it would be difficult to cut through the thick scales of the mountain beast with an ordinary bone knife. Fortunately, this fong was accidentally obtained and has become a good weapon. Su Yu has already considered that after the mountain beast is decomposed, he will find time to polish the fong and make a weapon of his own. Sniff! The fangs contained immense magical power, emitting a piercing, eerie, sharp sound, as if slicing through steel. The scales and flesh of the lifeless mountain beast had long since become rigid. After being forcefully slashed open, the blood no longer flowed like a stream, but became thick and sticky, emitting a heavy, fishy odor. Su Yu tore off the scales and thick hide and threw them to the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. The bloody flesh and bones appeared before Meow, Red Wolf, and the others, but no one showed any disgust or discomfort. After all, unlike the modern, civilized inhabitants of Blue Star, they hunted wild beasts year-round, consuming raw meat and drinking blood. When starving, they often tore the flesh raw and devoured it. While the scene was somewhat horrifying, it was nothing to them. It was just a huge pile of wild animal flesh. This reaction surprised Su Yu a little. Due to different backgrounds, different knowledge, and different life experiences, Su Yu's instinct was still somewhat resistant to this bloody and huge piece of flesh and blood. Okay, Great Witch Su has already removed the toughest outer layer of the mountain beast. Now it's our turn to take action. Let's work together, Meow. Meow and Red Wolf raised the bone knives in their hands, and the mood of the tribesmen instantly became high. Just as Su Yu had suspected, the disassembly of the beast took a long time, lasting from morning until dusk, with only a little over half completed. From the large feet to the chest, only bones remained. Su Yu and the tribesmen carried the severed flesh and blood, dumping it on the potholed ground nearby. This dead meat is highly poisonous and cannot be left there. If it is eaten by the wild beasts that gather around it, it will only reduce the tribe's food rations. It will also easily spread plague among the wild beasts, which would be really bad. Cremation is the best way. So you couldn't help but think of Yaxiang and several other priestesses in the tribe who were friendly with the element of fire. When the time comes, She can ask them to come over and burn everything with flames to prevent future troubles. It is indeed a bit of a loss that the flesh and blood cannot be used, but fortunately, there are still bones. Animal bones also play a significant role in this world and are even very expensive. Bringing them back is also a wealth resource. In order to facilitate transportation for the tribesmen, Suyu broke most of the oversized animal bones into small pieces. At Suyu's instruction, the tribesmen stopped the division work and began to transport the bones back to the camp. Having nothing to do for a while, Suyu found a rock nearby to sit down and began to rest. Broter Suyue. Not long after she sat down, she heard a familiar voice behind her. Suyu turned around in surprise. The farmer Kokoro was riding a moonlight leopard, followed by Wolf 1 and Wolf 2, crossing the valley and jumping up from the other side of the mountain stream. "Why are you here?" Suyu asked in surprise. Her delicate face, rosy as a peach against the backdrop of the sunset, Kokoro's petite body, astride the sturdy back of the moonlight leopard, a sweet, shy smile on her face. Normally, she'd be busy at work in the camp, sweet and adorable, like a little girl who'd never grown up. Now, scurrying through the mountains and forests, her mature form clad in animal hides, she looked like a daughter of the forest, with a touch of lively beauty. I miss Brother Suyu. The beasts in the pen are all very well behaved today. There will be nothing to worry about after feeding them. Kokoro blushed and lowered her head. The moonlight leopard jumped in front of Suyu and lay down. The little cutie is just a little cutie, like an elf, making people love him. When I first met her, Kokoro's brown hair was short and ear-length. Now it reached her chin. Washing it with soap over the past few days had made it clean and smooth. Her ears, hidden by her hair, were small and delicate. Wolf, the lackey, was rolling around the moonlight leopard, his mouth open, tongue hanging out, and tail wagging in a whirlwind. Moonlight leopard is female. Are you trying to cross racial lines? Wolf 2 rolled his eyes at his brother's strange behavior and lay there motionless. Suyu scratched Kiki Luo's nose and asked, "Where's the little mountain beast? How was your day?" It was very obedient. It fell asleep after eating the dried meat. It just ate a lot and kept trying to lick me, but I dodged it, hee. Kiki Luo smiled proudly. "Brother Suyu, I brought you some water. Have a drink." "Good." After a busy day, I had run out of water and was really thirsty. The concubine not only sent people, but also brought water. She was so kind. It wouldn't be too much to treat yourself to a good treat in the evening. I gulped down a few mouthfuls. It must be well water, and it tasted a bit sweet. "Where is Yaxiang? Has she gone home?" Suyu handed the bamboo tube to Kokoro's little mouth and continued to ask. Kokoro took a sip of water, chuckled, and said, "I'm back. Sister Yaxiang came back early today and is with Sister Lee, helping to build our stone and wood house. I told her when I came here, and she told you to go back early. She also caught some pheasants today. It is no secret in the camp that Suyu can make the captured wild beasts very obedient. Of course, no one cares what the reason is. The great wizard Su is omnipotent, and he can just chop the cow. Oh, today's work is done. We can go back later." Suyu nodded, looking at Kokoro's cherry lips moistened by the well water, and couldn't help but laugh again. It was not until Miao's voice suddenly came that she let go of Kokoro, whose chest was heaving. "Sudao, come here and take a look. There's a bone stuck in the spine, and we can't remove it." Chapter 100 Overlord's Bow and Arrow. "Okay, I'll be right there," Suyu replied, lifting the shy and timid Kokoro from her arms and placing her on the rock. The girl, unbelievably quickly scurried back onto the moonlight leopard's back, making a few menacing faces at Suyu. She knew she'd be bullied if she came to see Suyu, but she couldn't help herself. She felt annoyed and embarrassed every time, but the longing she felt couldn't resist. If Sister Lin hadn't told her that a man who was too clingy wouldn't be able to do anything, Kokoro probably wouldn't have wanted to leave Suyu's side. When they approached Miao and the others, they were about to dismantle the beast's spine. The beast was enormous, and its spine, like a tunnel, was wide and long, wide enough for two people to enter simultaneously. They had only reached the chest, but the spine in the lower abdomen could still be removed. But then a strange, long bone got stuck in the middle, tangled with the hard tendon. The beast's tendon was unusually hard, not as flexible as ordinary beef tendon, but as firm as rubber. Even when Xiao Hunyang used all her strength, she remained motionless. Suyu frowned and took a look. The long bone stuck in the spine was shaped like a winding bracket, with both ends firmly hooked around the upper and lower parts of the spine. The middle was mixed with animal tendons. The animal tendons, as thick as a giant python, were twisted in the middle of the long bone. However, such hardness and toughness could not break the long bone. It can be seen how hard this bone is. Moreover, the shape of this long bone made Su Yu's eyes sparkle. Where could one find such a natural weapon shape? This was definitely a bone bow. This mountain beast is indeed different from humans. Although it also has bone hyperplasia, its appearance is more beautiful. Your talent is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Stay away. Su Yu urged Miao and the others to stay away, lest the spine fracture and possibly injure the tribesmen. Once the tribesmen had retreated far enough, Su Yu grasped the outer ring of the spine, channeling all his magical power into his arms. The power of the Qilin arm instantly reached its peak. The lower limit of strength for a top-notch warrior is between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds, and the upper limit can reach 5,000 pounds. After days of physical training with potions, Su Yu's strength has been increasing day by day. Now his strength has reached about 4,000 pounds, which is very good for a top-notch warrior. The Qilin arm and the combat skill Serious Punch are Su Yu's greatest strengths now. The instantaneous burst of power can be doubled or tripled. This transformation can be fatal to a warrior of the same level. If caught off guard, it could even render the opponent incapable of combat. That's why so many warriors are attracted to combat skills. The immense magical power flowed through Qilin's arms, even materializing into thin layers of white mist. The immense force was like a tyrant descending to the world. The force permeated the spine, causing slight tremors. The white bones wailed like wild beasts, or made crisp crackling, sounds like a person clenching his fist. This bone is really hard. It's like solid steel, indestructible. It's hard to imagine how much time and effort the larger tribes must have put into grinding it back into a usable powder. And to pry open certain parts and access the marrow within, it would probably require the skill of a master sorcerer. But how could Su Yu be someone who gave up so easily? The more difficult it is, the more challenging it is. As the witch power was activated, a white shadow gradually appeared outside the body. This was Su Yu's second combat skill, and its practicality was comparable to the Serious Punch. This bizarre scene made Miao, Hong Lang, and the others dumbfounded. At this moment, Su Yu was like a god descending from heaven. In their eyes, she was so mysterious and incredible. Kokoro covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes burning. It was the first time she saw Su Yu use her magic power. Her body, which was not considered strong, now looked incredibly tall. Kokoro's heart was beating wildly, and only she knew the joy in her heart. She seemed to finally understand why Sister Yaxiang was so obedient and gentle in front of Su Yu, completely different from her previous cold and icy self. Even at night, she began to indulge Su Yu in some of her behaviors. She spoke words of resentment, but revealed a helpless and shy expression. "My man is really handsome." When Sister Winnie and the others asked Su Yu to come and take care of them, could it be that it was arranged by the gods in heaven? People in this era didn't believe in gods or ghosts, but because of the existence of the heavenly oath, they instinctively feared the heavens. The word God originated from the dying words of a great ancient sorcerer who described it as a servant of heaven, the pinnacle of everything. However, Su Yu felt that this might be hiding some unknown secret. The appearance of the Wuli phantom has been completed, and Miao, Hong Lang, and others are staring at this scene in a daze. The battle between the witches yesterday was shocking enough, and now their brains were completely paralyzed, unable to comprehend it. They had witnessed bloody battles between alliances and seen how great witches fought, but this was the first time they had seen such gorgeous special effects. The huge, illusory palm wrapped around the spine of the mountain beast, and its strength rose to another level. Finally, the trembling bones could no longer bear this great force. With a snap, they shattered into pieces and collapsed into debris on the ground. Without the restraint of its spine, the twisted animal sinew flipped like a nimble loach, carrying the bone bow with it with a whoosh. If Miao and the others were there, they would have been sent flying, seriously injured. With a tremendous spring force, the bone bow slammed fiercely into the shadow of the Wu power outside Su Yu's body. The shadow trembled, and Su Yu felt as if a heavy object had struck his chest. The force is decent, but not enough to cause any harm to the body. With a humming sound, Suyu grabbed the animal tendon that was swaying in the air like a spirit snake and grabbed the bone bow in his hand. After being freed from the restraint, the animal tendon returned to its place, and Suyu pulled the bone bow out. He took a closer look, pinched the bone arch with his fingers to feel the hardness. The bone was dense, the outer wall was smooth, the density was even higher than the spine, and the hardness was also a level higher. Suyu felt surprised as if he had picked up a rare treasure. Suyu couldn't help but recall some novels from Blue Star, in which the protagonist fell off a cliff and picked up peerless secret books, elixirs, rings, and the like from an old grandfather. This must be the same feeling. Wow, I made a fortune. Suyu held the bone bow in his hand, his eyes shining. Just like his wife, he couldn't let it go. He thought back to the mythological story where Hoei shot down the sun and became famous with one arrow. He didn't know if he could reach that level. The problem is a bone bow lacks a bowstring. A bowstring that matches it would need to be of comparable quality. Both strength and flexibility are essential, and finding such materials is far from easy. Mountain beast tendons are strong enough, but their flexibility is poor, and their rubbery nature makes them unsuitable for bowstrings. But there is no suitable material at the moment, so we can do the next best thing. We can process the tendons of wild animals a little and make use of them. The bow is definitely a good bow, so it needs to have a good name. Suyu picked up the bone bow, shook it twice in the air, and turned it in a fancy way. The afterglow of the setting sun made the white bone bow glow with a hint of red. While thinking, Suyu's eyes suddenly lit up. Oh no, from now on, you'll be called. The king forced himself on her. Chapter 101 New Silk Clothes. On the way back, Suyu carried Kokoro, riding on the moonlight leopard. Kokoro, in turn, embraced the bone bow, fondling it with delight, her eyes gleaming like stars. A long line of tribesmen formed behind them, carrying the bones. The witches, who had long since stopped fishing in the mountain stream, happily came over to help. In their eyes, the bones were a valuable resource that could be exchanged for, and could be retained for the tribe's own use. Brother Suyu, this is also a bow. Kokoro in his arms suddenly raised her little head and asked curiously. In her impression, the bows and arrows in the hands of the tribesmen were all made of bamboo and branches, and this was the first time she had seen bone-shaped ones. Yeah, the shape is similar, but it's much more powerful than an ordinary bamboo bow. Suyu raised the corner of her mouth and touched Kiki Luo's head. The guy narrowed his eyes and rubbed it with great enjoyment, being incredibly well-behaved. I want to see brother Suyu shoot arrows. Okay, but we have to wait until everyone has decomposed the mountain beast. Suyu nodded, a fiery red flash in his eyes, and he couldn't help but pat the moonlight leopard under him. The beast noticed what his master meant and began to speed up. Not far from the forest, you can see fiery red hair moving through the jungle. Yaxiang, riding a female wolf lion with a frying pan, the symbol of the tribe, hanging around her waist, and a sharp dagger, appears in front of you. These two were really active today, coming over one after the other. When Yaxiang saw Suyu holding Kokoro at the front of the returning team, her brows relaxed. Come back earlier next time. The sun will have already set. Yaxiang rode the female wolf lion close to Suyu and said helplessly, Kekaluo, didn't I ask you to tell Suyu to go back early? Hey, I forgot. She knew it was a mistake to let Kokoro come over to call for help. Seeing the blush on her face, Yaxiang knew that she must have been teased by Suyu a lot. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at Suyu. In front of so many tribesmen, she didn't even restrain herself. Lin has made new clothes. They're made according to your design. The top and pants are made of a mixture of mountain spider silk and cotton and linen. They look much better than linen clothes and are also quite soft. Oh, I'll go over and take a look later. Suyu Ismail. The clothing design that Suyu gave to Lin was based on her own sportswear, with a loose top and long pants. However, because long pants would be inconvenient in the jungle, she changed it to the length of a hip skirt, which saved time and materials. Cough, cough. It's definitely not, because I want to see long white legs or something like that. And those small pieces of pure silk fabric are finished too, Yaxiang added, her cheeks flushing slightly. Lin had whispered about their uses when she took out the clothes. Suyu's eyes lit up when she heard that. The underwear is also ready. Sister Lin is really clever and skillful. As Suyu spoke, she glanced at Yaxiang unconsciously, and her eyes slid down. What are you looking at? I haven't put on anything yet. Yaxiang blushed. People of this era wore simple and straightforward clothes, animal skin coats on the upper body and animal skin skirts on the lower body, with basically nothing underneath. For the physical and mental development of teenagers, underwear must be invented. After a while, Suyu and others finally arrived at the camp. Because of their irregular shape and large quantity, the animal bones were simply thrown outside the camp. After all, there was no need to worry about them being stolen in the mountains. Baiwa, Guagua, and the other children, along with the witch's children, were having a blast playing around under the apple tree, sweating profusely. Some had already given up, sitting on the ground and gasping for air. Little Yuli stood guard beside the planting area, her face full of vigilance, afraid the naughty kids might accidentally break something. Seeing their loved ones return, the children came to greet them with laughter. The extraterrestrials truly loved children more than humans did, so it was no wonder they chose to join the tribe for the sake of children. If you have nothing to do at night, you can go back and rest. If you need food, you can come to me or Winnie. So you didn't want to disturb the reunion of father and daughter or sisters, so she took Kokoro and Yaxiong and left. So you first want to take a look at her stone and wood house. The stone foundation was complete, and after being tempered by Lee's magic, it was undoubtedly sturdy. Above the foundation was a floor made of cut solid wood. The frame supported the beams, which included both wood and stone pillars. It should be able to withstand wind and rain. It's just a prototype now, but it can be seen that Si Jiao and others have put a lot of effort into it, and every part can withstand a lot of testing. Chapter 102 10 Consecutive Draws. Back in the big house, Lin and others were sorting their clothes. Suyu walked over and picked up a few pieces of spider silk underwear and sewn silk sports suits from Lin's feet. She looked at them over and over again. The sizes and dimensions were universal. The finished products were quite good. Although the sewing technology was a bit rough for this era, it would definitely attract a lot of attention. The only shortcoming is the color, which is grayish-white from the inside out. There's no rush to dye, so put aside for now. Sister Lin, please sew more these days and let the tribe members wear them. We can give up the animal skin clothes in the future. So you said to Lin. Lin lowered her head, her cheeks slightly red. Okay, let's let the tribesmen get used to it first. They've been wearing animal skins for too long, so it might not be easy to change. Well, Sister Lin, you can make the decision on this matter. Sujue Nadith. Kokoro, let's go back. After a tiring day, it's time to go back to eat and sleep. Kokoro cried out when she heard that, and ran back skipping and jumping. She hugged Suyu's arm, a smile on her face, and she was so happy. However, Yaxiong did not follow and whispered to Suyu. I'll be back late tonight. Winnie asked me to take a bath with her in the evening. She and Lin also want to take a hot bath. Okay. Suyu played helplessly. At night, after the meat was roasted, Yaxiong heated up a basin of well water. This time the temperature was a little higher so that the water would not get cold after dinner. After whispering a few words in Kokoro's ear, Yaxiong went to Winnie's room. After Kokoro finished eating, Suyu stretched, took off her clothes, and got into the bathtub. The water temperature was just right, and it was really effective in relieving fatigue. Brother Suyu, I want to wash too. Coco Lo took off her underwear quickly, then stepped into the bathtub with a hey, curled up her body, and sank into the warm water, leaving only her head floating above the water. Suyu couldn't help but smile and waved. Come here, I'll wash your hair. Kokoro hummed and turned around. There was no shampoo available in the mall, so she had to use soap. Suyu rubbed Kokoro's head, swirled the soap in the water, and rubbed it in her palms. Then she ran her fingers through Kokoro's brown hair and gently grasped it. Close your eyes. It will hurt if the soap foam gets in your eyes. I also learned the one-stop service of washing, cutting, and blow-drying in my youth. Suyu Ismail complacently. How do you feel? Hee. My head always feels itchy, and it feels so good when brother Suyu scratches it. Kokoro closed her eyes, looking comfortable and enjoying herself. That's right, Yaxiong hasn't even enjoyed this service. Really? Oh, my eyes hurt. In her joy, Kokoro accidentally opened her eyes. Suyu wiped the foam off her eyebrows in a bad mood. Keep your eyes closed. I'll tell you when I'm done. Then open your eyes. Kokoro became much more obedient. She put her mouth in the water and started playing with the water. Don't play with the bath water. Suyu picked up the bamboo tube, scooped up hot water, and rinsed Kiki Luo's head. Her hair was wet, with a faint jasmine scent, which smelled quite pleasant. It was late at night. Suyu was in a good mood today and had difficulty falling asleep. Out of boredom, she started looking at the system. It seemed like I hadn't checked my attributes for a long time, so I took a look on a whim. Protagonist, Sujue. Identity, Great Witch of the Rose Clan. Age, 18. Level, 19. Strength, 180. Physical fitness, 179. Agility, 223. Witch power, 300. Experience, 55 out of 100. Favorability, 4,210. Skills, Magical Harmony level 8. Damage Immunity level 2. Map Radar level 5. Visible range 2,000 meters. Iron Smelting Technology max. Pottery Technology max. Weapons, Dagger, removed. Frying Pan, removed. Force Sex. Turn to another page and you will see detailed realm attributes. Host, Sujue. Strength stage, top notch. Woolly skills, Serious Punch level 3. Woolly Phantom level 2. Taming level 1. The favorability value in the past few days has accumulated to more than 4,000, which is a considerable amount. But now it's different from the past. You can't just go to the lottery all at once. The development of the ethnic group is also very important. Nowadays, food, clothing, and housing are all being developed in parallel, with no particular priority. Housing is still under development. Clothing has also undergone qualitative changes, but food seems to have not made much progress yet. Eating jerky alone is not a big deal after all. Suyu's sight fell on the hybrid rice seeds. The exchange of 3,000 favorability points made her feel a pain in her flesh just by looking at them. But this is an inevitable trend of future development and is unavoidable. In order to offset the pain of the favorability value disappearing, Suyu decided to draw 2 waves of 10 consecutive times to have fun. Ding! Congratulations on winning a bottle of Super Stamina Potion, the consolation prize. Ding! Congratulations on winning a bottle of Super Stamina Potion, the consolation prize. Ding! Congratulations on winning the consolation prize of a bottle of Stamina Potion. Chapter 103, Evolution of Magical Combat Skills. The first 10-shot combo ended just like that. It was a bit of a chore, but the chance of obtaining the Super Stamina Potion seemed to have increased a bit, which was good news. After all, Suyu was now facing the limitations of the Super First Class realm. If she wanted to cross this mountain and reach the level of a half-step Great Wizard, the Super Stamina Potion was indispensable. Ordinary Stamina Potions are as tasteless as well water now, but the more of this stuff the better, and Suyu doesn't dislike it at all. Aside from the 3,000 points of favorability that needed to be maintained, there was still one more chance for a 10-draw combo. Besides, since I hadn't managed to secure a win just now, I figured this time wouldn't be too bad. Shall AI continue with the 10 consecutive draws? Suyu's mind moved, and the prize pool began to emit a familiar light. A halo exploded in the pool and transformed into 10 starlights of different colors. Ding! Congratulations on winning the consolation prize of a bottle of Stamina Potion. Ding! Congratulations on winning a bottle of Super Stamina Potion, the consolation prize. Just as Suyu expected, there were still the permanent bonus Stamina Potions in front, mixed with a bottle of Super Stamina. Until the end, Suyu also perked up, looking forward to what good things would come out. Then, the last crisp mechanical sound was heard. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the combat skill. Woolly Combat Skill, Evolution Infinity. No level limit. Evolution of Witchcraft and Combat Skills? Suyu's eyes narrowed slightly. Just understanding the literal meaning felt a bit overwhelming. So he quickly clicked on the introduction to check it out. Woolly Combat Skill Evolution. Active skill, no level limit. Target selection restrictions. Clan members or yourself. Limit on the number of target evolutions. Unique. Note, the host can select a tribe member, make contact with any part of the target's body, and then select any skill or combat technique to mutate and enhance. The power and effect will randomly evolve within the skill's origin range. Each target can only be enhanced once. Repeated enhancements will have no effect. Enhancement internal cooldown, 15 days. Tip: evolving a woolly skill significantly increases the target's skill power, but does not affect the target's current strength. Before the enhancement, the host can choose between a random favorability boost and a current favorability boost. The power of the skill's evolution will also change accordingly. Please choose the enhanced mode carefully. Clover, a green plant. This time I got lucky. If it was just about strengthening her own skills, so you wouldn't be so excited. But it happened to be usable in groups. Even if there was only one chance, as long as it was used properly, it could directly raise the abilities of the witches to a higher level. Of course, The system's prompts are also very considerate. The degree of enhancement of this skill is related to the favorability value, which means that the enhancement effect on women is naturally one level higher than that on men. Choosing between the two modes involves a bit of luck. If you choose the first option, you'll be randomly assigned a favorability level above admiration, which is basically a guaranteed win. Moreover, this skill also has a built-in CD cooldown of 15 days, which is neither long nor short and cannot be said to be good or bad, but it is ultimately a limitation. As for physical contact, it is indeed a feature of the system. Fortunately, it does not require in-depth communication like the magic power harmonization skill. I lost an opportunity to care for my people in an open and honest way. It's a bit sad. Bah, it's really bad to have teddy kidneys. They become crooked because of thinking too much. Suyu moved her body slightly and squeezed the softness in her arms. Her LSP energy was full again. His thoughts then returned to his combat skills. How do I improve my combat skills? Do I need to have good impressions? Suyu scratched her face. What good feelings do I have towards myself? After all, I am not that kind of narcissist and cannot clearly define my own position. If you feel good about yourself, you might as well ask the system, Suyu asked immediately. Xiaoi. I am here. If I strengthen my combat skills, how is my favorability calculated? Ding. The host belongs to the owner. The degree of enhancement and evolution of combat skills will be random within the full favorability, positive value. Oh, that seems reasonable. It all depends on your appearance. If she could randomly get the increased strength of the unwavering love stage, Suyu felt that she should burn incense and pray. As for the tribute, she would use Kokoro's underwear, Of course that's impossible. After understanding the situation clearly, Suyu had a thought. Yaxiang and Kokoro's affection for each other is now at the highest stage of admiration, and is also about to rise to the level of passionate love, so there is no need to rush for the time being. It is better to strengthen yourself first. This presents a situation where one has to choose between two options. Of course, animal taming skills are directly excluded. Serious Punch and Woolly Phantom each have their own strengths and weaknesses. However, Woolly Phantom is essentially the same as the Woolly Combat Skill Evolution, a buff-like ability. Therefore, the only means of burst attack is still to rely on Serious Punch. The so-called one force can break all laws is not nonsense. Suyu made up her mind and said, Xiao AI, strengthen your Serious Punch. Ding, Magical Combat Skill Evolution in use. Target selected, Self. Favorability status randomly selected, Passionate Love. Evolving, please wait. It's so random that it's like falling in love. Suyu was in a good mood, and the power of this punch was probably going to be incredible. Ding. Mutation and evolution successful. Serious Punch upgraded to Super Serious Punch. This. Xiao AI. Tell me the truth. Are you also bad at naming? Because it was only an enhancement of combat skills, not an increase in one's own strength. Suyu couldn't feel anything for the time being. Chapter 104 Lin. At the same time, Winnie and Lin also fell asleep in each other's arms. Wei and I looked at Lin, who was about to close her eyes and sleep, and suddenly asked, Lin, have you ever thought about becoming Suyu's woman? Lin's eyes widened in surprise, because the question was too straightforward. As for whether she had actually thought about it, she herself was not sure. It was just that every time she saw Suyu, she would feel a surge of heat inside. That nagging feeling, perhaps it was anticipation. Looking at Winnie's serious expression, Lin twisted her body and nodded slowly. Maybe, I'm not sure. That's probably it. Winnie smiled. There's nothing to hide. After all, Suyu is so amazing and so considerate to everyone. Lin nodded as well. So, do you have any concerns? Winnie continued to ask. They were good sisters who had been together for more than 20 years, so she could see that Lin was hesitant about this matter. Lin hesitated for a long time before she softly replied, We are all sisters. That's it. Winnie rolled her eyes coquettishly, smiled, and hugged Lin. Lin, you're just overthinking it. What's so strange about this? We're as close as sisters, but I don't think it's strange at all. Winnie leaned close to Lin's ear and earnestly advised, Lin, there are some things you have to be brave about. Lin was a little stunned. Brave? The next morning, Farmer Kokoro woke up early. After her magic power improved, Kokoro's physical condition seemed to improve as well. Kokoro scampered over to the pen. After Wolf 1 and Wolf 2 were released, they immediately ran over like lackeys, wagging their tails. Moonlight leopard and wolf lion weren't pinned in. They lay quietly on the ground, lazily swishing their tails. This is their little mistress. Suyu has instructed them to take special care of her, including every member of the tribe living here. The mistress will bring them fresh meat. If they think it's not enough, they need to go out and hunt for it themselves. Kokoro cautiously approached the animal pen where the mountain beasts were kept. This creature, having just learned to walk, was already as tall as Kokoro when he stood up. Seeing the familiar human figure, he opened his mouth, stuck out his tongue, and tried to lick it. Kokoro quickly retreated and threw the dried meat into the little mountain beast's mouth. "Don't come over here, hum." Kokoro put her hands on her hips and puffed up her mouth. She was in charge of dozens of wild animals, big and small here. As a farmer, she was still very majestic. After feeding all the beasts, Kokoro found a clean tree stump to sit down and began to think about her own wizard training plan. Suyu had naturally thought about it specifically for Kokoro and had explained it in detail several times under the quilt. Every time Kokoro saw Yaxiang and the others go out hunting and fighting with Suyu, she naturally yearned for it. She didn't want to just wait for Suyu to come back every day. So during this period, when she had some free time, she would practice her with magic power. Her current ability was healing, but there had been few injuries in the tribe recently. The orcs and ghosts did have some wounded, but their physiques were different from humans, and they were very good at self-care. After applying the herbs, they were almost healed overnight. Kokoro is completely useless. This was probably the only thing that bothered her. Without any animal treatment, Kokoro sat on the tree stump, shaking her legs. Under her feet were some crushed weeds. Suddenly, an idea flashed in her mind. Why not try using witchcraft to treat the plants? This was something she hadn't considered before. Animals could get sick and injured, but what about plants? Curious, Kokoro jumped down from the tree stump and squatted down to observe. She chose a shaky, dry piece of hay. The hay was as yellow as autumn leaves, and it was likely that it would die completely soon. Kokoro reached out her small hand and wrapped it around the grass, then silently channeled her magical energy within her mind. Wood-type magical energy flowed from her body, nourishing the hay. Light green streaks flashed across the grass roots, stems, and leaves. Kokoro's eyes widened as she took in the incredible scene before her. The small area beneath her feet seemed to be stained with green, its appearance completely changed. Even the dry grass in her hand was gradually regaining its vitality and spreading out. Its roots grew thick, and its branches and leaves began to grow luxuriantly. Soon, they grew to the height of coconut trees' knees. Kokoro then realized that this was not a weed, but the root of some small tree. But why would my magic power produce such a strange reaction? This doesn't seem to be just a treatment anymore. Kokoro frowned, shook her head, and thought for a long time, but still couldn't guess what was going on. With her limited wisdom, she naturally couldn't understand this situation. "Let's ask Brother Suyu tonight," Fortunately, Kokoro was simple-minded and quickly got out of the dead end. Chapter 105, Making Bone Arrows. No one noticed Kokoro's unusual behavior in the pen. Not far away, beneath an apple tree, Red Wolf and Meow were already gearing up with their orcs. Soon, Suyu's handsome figure appeared, followed by the dashing Yaxiang. The moonlight leopard and the wolf lion, sensing Suyu and Yaxiang's presence, immediately stood up and ran over. Kokoro sat on the tree stump and stared at Suyu in a daze. Her heart was filled with sweetness, and the things she was wondering about just now were completely forgotten. Suyu did not leave immediately, but handed the hybrid rice seeds that were exchanged last night to Lioli. A large piece of open space had been reclaimed not far from the camp, which was reserved for growing rice. Rice cultivation can be divided into two methods, raising seedlings and direct seeding. Suyu chose the latter. After all, direct seeding does not require raising seedlings or transplanting, greatly simplifying the process and labor, reducing the workload. The tribe is currently short of manpower, which is a perfect fit, so you can still trust the quality of the rice seeds produced by the system. After explaining some precautions for growing colored glass, Suyu led the orcs and ghosts to the valley to continue decomposing the mountain beasts. Only the upper abdomen and head of the beast remained, and the decomposition was much faster than yesterday. After leaving only the tendons, Suyu piled all the flesh and blood aside. Then it was Yaxiang's job to burn the scene. Fierce fire, elemental magical power, surged into the sky. Su could clearly sense that Yaxiang's magical power had increased significantly. Since achieving the perfect second awakening, Yaxiang's strength had almost increased day by day. It was believed that it would not be long before, with just the right opportunity, she would be able to break through to the top level in one fell swoop. Su, a Meow and others were dismantling the bones of wild animals here. After a while, they smelled the aroma of barbecue. The flesh and blood that had been soaked in an unknown poison emitted a meaty aroma mixed with a strange odor. The temperature around them also began to rise sharply because of Yaxiang's full-strength fire. Although the sun was not very strong today, Su and others were sweating profusely. After several hours of agonizing, the bones were finally recovered. Before Yaxiang, all that remained was a pile of steaming charcoal. A once ferocious beast, reduced to nothing more than a pile of earth. Life is unpredictable. Who could have guessed? Okay, let's go back. Everything was done, and Su came to Yaxiang's side. Having expended a lot of magic power, Yaxiang's body was now somewhat empty, and her face was slightly pale. Su wiped the sweat from her forehead and called the wolf lion over. Don't ride the moonlight leopard anymore. Let me hold you. Su said distressedly, picked up Yaxiang and sat on it. Yaxiang, who usually kept a cold and arrogant side in front of the tribe members, helplessly let Su hold her in his arms. The wolf lion roared excitedly and ran towards the camp carrying the two of them. After returning, Yaxiang took a cold shower and fell asleep on the straw bed. Outside, on the grounds, lay the massive fang lodged in the beast's body, its bloody remains cleaned by Su. Su examined it for a long time, unable to guess its origins. But none of this mattered. Su's goal was to utilize the fang and polish it into a suitable weapon. This fang is about 11 meters long and is completely white, like a cold bone, exuding the fierce and sharp aura of its original owner. Its hardness was definitely on par with the scales of a mountain beast. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to penetrate the beast's neck and directly penetrate its body. This was definitely a good material, but Su was still considering what to craft. He first thought of his newly acquired Overlord bow, temporarily using mountain beast tendons as a bowstring. But he hadn't prepared the bow and arrows yet. To match this fine bow, of course, we couldn't use inferior arrows like bamboo and branches. This fang was quite large, so making a few bow and arrows wouldn't require much material. As for the rest, of course, we chose from swords, spears, halberds, axes, halberds, hooks, and forks. In fact, when it comes to Su's preferences, when she was on Blue Star, her favorites were the Tang sword and the Sword of Promise of Victory. Tang Dao is divided into 4 types: ceremonial sword, horizontal sword, Emo Dao, and barrier sword. Su's favorite is the horizontal sword with its narrow, straight blade. The straight blade of the horizontal sword symbolizes integrity and uprightness. It has the kingly demeanor of a sword, but also the cold and domineering power of a blade. When Su first saw the horizontal sword on Blue Star, she immediately fell in love with it. No matter what, being handsome is the root. The Sword of Promised Victory, on the other hand, is a bit more magical. Also known as the Sword of the King, the Sword in the Stone, the Broken Steel Sword, or the Iron Slashing Sword, some people of that era prefer to call it the EX Curry Stick. It's a weapon that lives on in legends and stories, and one of Su's most beloved weapons. Su still remembers the blade's data vividly, and crafting it with these memories is no problem. To sharpen this fang, bone or stone knives are unlikely to work, so iron tools are needed, or the specific elemental abilities of a witch are needed. However, witch power that can manipulate iron does not currently exist in Suyu camp. Evenly said that it is impossible to do so because it is not soil after all. When it comes to ironware, Suyu will think of the iron mine mentioned by Honglang. It seems that she needs to make a decision in advance and arrange people to go there to explore. The tribe still had a few iron swords. Suyu wandered around the camp and traded a bone knife for one. Don't ask why she was able to exchange it. The young witch was so eager to give herself to Suyu, her eyes full of affection, like a shy little girl. Suyu was determined in her heart, but she was actually very panicked. She touched it and ran away. It's so exciting to take advantage and run away. Sitting down in front of the house, Suyu used her own magical power to infuse the sword and forcibly sawed off a portion of the fang. The hardness of the fang really surprised Suyu. After all, an iron sword is not a saw. Just cutting off the long piece of half a finger width gave Suyu a toothache. There was enough material to make bone arrows, so Suyu temporarily gave up cutting. With a blessing of top-notch magic power, Polishing is much easier. After a few hours, Suyu polished the long piece of fong into 3 bone arrows that were not very marketable. Ugly appearance is not a big problem. As long as the arrow body is straight and the tip is sharp, it can kill the enemy. It's not for exhibition. Suyu planned to wait until all the tools were available before considering the aesthetics. Chapter 106. Departure to the Iron Mine 1. The next step is to deal with the animal tendons. The thick animal tendons are like rubber and can be cut with a bone knife and magic power. Leave a thickness about the size of your fist and pierce it into the natural barbs at both ends of the bone bow. Pull it slightly with enough force and toughness, and a heavy, buzzing sound will be emitted during the vibration. Suddenly, while Suyu was still happy that the first prototype of the Overlord's strong bow was ready for use, she felt a soft squeeze on her back, giving her a pleasant sensation. The fiery red hair with a faint rose scent lingered at the tip of the nose. Yaxiang woke up at some point and hugged Suyu from behind. When there are no tribesmen around, Yaxiang occasionally reveals her feminine side. You woke up so soon. Why don't you sleep a little longer? Are you feeling better now? Well, I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep at night, and my magic power recovers very quickly. In recent times, my magic power seems to have increased a little bit. Yaxiang said softly. Well, listening to these casual words, Suyu's mouth twitched, and she couldn't help but think of the Versailles quotes of some academic masters when she was on Blue Star. Oops, how come I only got 97 points in this subject? It even brought down my average score. English? I'm just average. I don't review much, but I do well on the test. Huh, isn't it enough to just have hands? I had to drink a lot of stamina potions every day to improve my strength a little bit. Compared to the witch in the perfect awakening state, the speed and efficiency of the witch's power increase was so indiscriminate. Yaxiang's attention was quickly attracted by the bone bow under Suyu's feet, and she asked curiously, "This shape is the same as the bamboo bow. Is a new bow?" In fact, she had seen Kokoro holding it in her arms before, but she didn't have time to ask. Yes, it's much stronger than a bamboo bow, so I made a bow and bowstring specifically for it. Suyu suddenly asked, "Do you want to test its power?" "I just made a bow and arrow." "No, I still like the dagger and frying pan." Yaxiang shook her head. That was the first gift Suyu gave her, and it had great significance. After working for most of the afternoon, the 3-piece set of the domineering method was finally ready. There was nothing else to do at the moment, so Suyu planned to go to Winnie to discuss the matter of the iron mine. Winnie conveyed Suyu's request, and soon the small tree house was crowded with people. There were more people attending the meeting this time, and the newly joined Red Wolf and a Meow were also called over. The previous time, Suyu had created that middle school atmosphere on a whim, just to have some fun. Of course, she couldn't keep doing it forever. There weren't any extra stone blocks in the tree house, so Red Wolf and a Meow stood aside. Unexpectedly, just as the meeting was about to begin, the lively and active Bai Hua poked her head out of the tree house. Red Wolf's face suddenly darkened. "Hua, stop messing around. We need to discuss important matters within the clan. Go back quickly." "Father, is this about the iron mine?" Bai Hua glanced at Suyu and found that he didn't seem angry. In the past, Suyu only knew the human race, but now he was her own great witch. So, Bai Hua was still a little reserved and mumbled to her father. She and her father had experienced the iron mine incident together, so she naturally knew more. "Gomein." Suyu smiled at Bai Hua and waved. Bai Hua grinned, mustered up his courage, and slipped in. The petite Bai Hua took 2 steps and climbed directly onto Suyu's thighs, shaking her head and lying on a round table. Seeing this scene, the old father was overwhelmed with emotions and felt distressed. Bai Hua was one of their own tribe, and she was still a child, so naturally no one paid any attention to it. Except for Kokoro, who felt a little disappointed. It was clearly her place. But Bai Hua was so young, and she was considered her older sister. As an older sister, she should be more considerate of her younger sister. Sister Lin has always treated me like this, so I must endure it. After a period of silence, the girls all opened their eyes wide and waited for Suyu to speak. After counting on their fingers, it seemed that today was not the 7th day's round table meeting yet. What did Suyu want to say? Suyu did not say it directly, but asked Han Lang to tell her what he knew first. Over 100 miles to the south, in a mountain range, there was an iron mine. The beast that had just been killed by the tribe had come from there. Everyone was shocked. They learned from Li that the beast had been fatally wounded